You are listening to a BeachGlass Media podcast.
Earlier this month, the world gathered around their television screens to see a plethora of paid protesters use their amplified voices to express their disdain for what Immigration and Customs Enforcement is doing with their raids across America, as ICE officers continue to find and deport criminal illegal aliens throughout the states. Yes, that's right. Paid protesters continue to use their freedom of speech and freedom to protest, all while being televised for the world to see in front of a group of somewhat talented musical artists, singers, and performers who have come together to vote for each other to see who among them are the best at singing and composing music with the least amount of auto-tune and artificial intelligence when writing their music, and then hand them over a trophy that looks like a record player combined with a tuba, which, who even knows if these new musical artists even know what a record player or a tuba is, since all their music doesn't even use real instruments anymore. And in case you were wondering, yes, I was talking about the Grammys, where all the musical artists made sure to get up on stage and pretend to write all their own music, but made sure not to be remiss to let you know they don't like ice. Of course, the frozen water is acceptable. It's just the ICE officers that run around capturing Satan-worshipping criminal gangsters as they drive around the city wearing face masks are, as one musician said, quote, "They are really, 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 really scary. Really," unquote. And who can forget the brave Billie Eilish, who went up on stage to voice her grandstanding opinion in front of the whole world like a bright shining star in the middle of the night. Yes, the same Billie Eilish who wrote that hit song, Bad Guy, in 2019, where she admittedly stated she ripped it off from the theme music to the video game Plants vs. Zombies, and since then has written nothing worth noting, went on stage during the Grammys to accept her award for the Song of the Year for the song Wildflower, which, to her surprise, no one has even heard of it playing anywhere. She took the time to tell the world that what she really thinks about the United States. What did Billie Eilish say? I'm so glad you asked. She stated, quote, "No one is illegal on stolen land." Funny, because she has no problem at all building a $3 million house on stolen land. And funnier still that, prior to that, Billie Eilish said billionaires should give their money away during a moment with the press at a Wall Street Journal magazine Innovators Award last year. So you heard it right here, folks. If you're a millionaire like Billie Eilish, then you are more than welcome to build a $3 million house on stolen land. However, if you are one of them nasty, disgusting billionaires, well, far be it from Billie to be associated with you, you stingy, greedy, heartless, immoral rats. Billie Eilish says she's going to change her name from Billie Eilish to Millie Eilish, just so she can dissociate from billionaires in any way possible. My name is Andrew Reyes, and this is Faith in Politics with me, Andrew Reyes. All right, welcome to Faith in Politics. I am your host, Andrew Reyes, and today this is a bonus episode of Faith in Politics. And I am so excited to welcome my guest that's coming up on the show in just a little bit. But before I get to my guest, I just want to say thank you for listening to this podcast. It means a lot to me. This is like a dream come true for me to produce my own podcast and have special guests on. And, who knows what can come out of it. So I'm really excited for our next guest. This next guest, I've known him. We worked at the Postal Service together. He's gone and went on to better things, but here we are, reunited once again, and we're going to have a really nice conversation. I really can't wait what's going to be in store, but it should be really good. So, with that said, the last thing I want to say is if you are listening to this podcast, wherever you are listening to, please like, subscribe, wherever you're listening, whether it be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. Please follow the show, like it, leave a rating. I would really appreciate it. So, and also follow the Instagram. You could find this podcast on Instagram where I post satirical things and keep you up to date there. But without further ado, I want to welcome my next guest, the second guest I've ever had on this podcast. And I know him as Corey.
Hey, Andrew. Thank you so much for bringing me on. I'm very excited. I kind of feel like Ricky Bobby right now, where I don't know what to do with my hands. This is my first podcast.
Well, just leave them on the table where I can see them, all right?
Yes, sir.
I'm messing with you. But no, really, Corey, thank you so much for being here. We've been trying to do this for the past, month, it seems like.
Yeah.
Last week didn't work out because of the Super Bowl, which, by the way, what happened there? Did your team win?
You know what? I really don't have a team. I never really watch sports anymore other than bass fishing.
Oh, sweet.
I got into bull riding.
Bull riding.
I love
real bulls or the ones that aren't the bars where the
real bull riding.
The hot-looking girls.
My wife does not let me watch those, but real bull riding. I tried going to the Anaheim one, but tickets are so expensive. And
real bull riding.
I'm still suffering from Biden's 4 years, so couldn't afford it.
Hey, we're all suffering. Okay.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
We went a whole 4 years having laws enacted using an auto pen.
Yeah. I know I was one point away from winning my work pool, so it would have been nice to win $200. But no, I watched I think one quarter with my next door neighbor. I call him Tío Pancho. He's my inside source of all things immigration based. But we also have a good whiskey every day and just talk and have a good time. And so I watched it with his family, and then after that, I went back to building my possum cage and went back to just hanging out with my wife. I didn't want to get too emotional or pissed off during the game for any halftime show, or I didn't learn Spanish in the 4 months.
Oh, you didn't learn Spanish?
I tried.
Oh man,
I couldn't pick it up.
It's okay. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I did the thing that a lot of the conservatives did. They went over to TPUSA. Yeah. Watched that special they had, and I watched it. It was good. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I even heard that the people who do speak Spanish couldn't understand what's his name, Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Bugs Bunny, right?
One of those.
It was Bugs Bunny.
It was like what
Bad Bunny.
People thought it was that viral girl from the Dr. Phil was going to perform for us as well.
The Catch Me Outside girl, Cash Me Outside.
I think her name's Bad Bunny, I think too, but yeah, what's funny is actually I don't mind Bad Bunny. I love to salsa dance. And,
sweet.
And so every now and then.
So you don't speak Spanish.
Don't speak Spanish.
But you like to salsa dance.
I love to dance. I love to salsa. My favorite one's Lechona now. Oh. So I could go 6 minutes straight on Lechona with my neighbor and his family, and I get my kicks. But yeah, no Spanish for me. I get the nudge and a look of disappointment at every Mexican market in Southern California, but it's okay,
So you're what my friend says. You're no sabo kid. No sabo español.
Oh, okay.
That means I don't know Spanish.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife, who has a very strong accent, Filipino accent, she told me, she's like, you know what? You look very Mexican. I said, I look, I know, I could tell, but she said, you look like the kind of Mexican that should know Spanish. And we started laughing, and I'm like, yeah, that's why I have a lot of disappointing looks at the grocery store,
Well, just to set the table, we're here in my renovated studio. So Corey, you're the first one to see the studio set up the way that it is, and it used to be a little more hideous, but I think it's cleaning up nicely, and so I'm glad that you're the first one where I have the setup with this round table in between us and got my mic set up. You asked me for some whiskey, and surprisingly, I had some whiskey because I got it gifted by a customer on Christmas. So you lucked out. I'm drinking my, my Coca-Cola over here.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with pounding back a couple of Coca-Colas with the fellas.
Oh, 100%.
And then aside from your whiskey, you do got your root beer.
Oh, yeah. I'm as American as it gets. You drink Johnny Walker, a little bit of root beer, and there's no hiding what I am.
And I gotta say, I love the "Make America Great Again"
Yes,
hat.
sir. Yes,
you
sir.
just whipped it out of nowhere, surprised me. Put it on. I was like, yeah.
I didn't actually. I was in my truck and I said, oh, maybe, his family might not be supportive, or I don't want to disrespect. So I actually put it on my belt loop as we walked through the back, and I said, okay, I could put it on now. But
it's funny.
I'm respectful. I'm respectful
too. Even if someone had something on that I don't agree with, I would still respect them. I like the hat. Yours is like a camo.
It's amazing, right?
It's orange.
It blends in. Sometimes people
cool.
will actually talk to me and not know I have it on because it's camo, and then they look up, and then, oh, there goes the conversation.
Oh, and then they feel like they have to go repent and give themselves 40 lashes for having talked to you.
Oh, yes.
For wearing a MAGA hat.
Oh, 100%. I love the hat, though.
Funny.
I actually, you know what's funny about this hat? I actually took off Trump's name on the back of my hat.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I'm just a big believer in, I don't wear another man on my back, like a jersey or anything like that, unless he's, dead, and praise God that Trump survived
that's crazy.
that attempt on his life. And but yeah, no, so I took his name off only because I don't want another name on my head, on my body.
You got your principles. I like that.
I have my principles, but at the same time, I love what Make America Great Again is doing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Corey, I've known you through the post office. That's where we met.
Yes.
Delivering that good old-fashioned U.S. mail. And I'm still working there, but you took off. You found you thought the grass was greener on the other side. So what are you doing now?
So now I'm a truck driver. I'm a hazmat truck driver.
That's like an all-American job right there.
Yeah, you know what? I watched Landman. I watched the first season of Landman, and then I said to myself, I want to work in gases. I want to work. I want to drive a tanker, all these things, right? So, yeah, I got my trucking license because that's what America's about, is opportunity, right? And so, but then again, I loved my job at the post office. I really did. I loved servicing my community, especially my route that I did. I loved it. I went to Dodger games with the sergeant of Manhattan Beach, who was one of my customers or residents. And then I also, went to a 90-something-year-old birthday party with an open bar. And so, but no, I loved my job there. And but I went in with a purpose. I went in to really help get my wife's citizenship. So
that's awesome.
I thought to myself, what better way than being a federal worker? And but you know what? I love the post office. It humbled me when I needed to be humbled. It's real hard work. I miss the job, miss my friends there, and I'm glad to we reunited on this term and get to talk.
I think you're right about that. I don't think people really understand how tough it is. It's a very physically demanding job. And I say that to people, and I still don't think they really understand what I'm telling them. But there are days where you're just worn out.
Oh, 100%.
You're out in the elements. You're carrying heavy stuff all day. You're bending over. Your back's getting strained. It's a tough job.
Yeah.
And just like when I worked in fast food, I didn't appreciate it until I started working fast food. Yeah. Same thing with the post office. I'm like, wow, I can't believe these people do all this work.
Yeah.
But it's funny. So, yeah, we met at the post office, and
I was that guy at the post office.
You were out there. A little kooky at times?
Yeah.
Not in a bad way.
No.
Just as an observer, I was like, this guy, there's something different about this guy. But, I try to respect everyone. I try not to judge people just, from the first time interactions. But, I think as a Christian, you learn you have to love everyone around you. That's a command from God. And I'm glad we connected.
Yes.
Because you gave me some insights that made me think a lot about certain things. And but before I go on, I do want to mention something. One of our coworkers, Frankie, I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
He wanted me to tell you on the show that he almost got into a fight with your old supervisor this past December.
Which one? Let's not say names.
Yeah, I don't want to
but
say
I'm pretty
names.
sure I know who, and it's one of those things where I was friends with everyone there.
Yeah.
I was friends with everyone. I was more than willing to help out and so forth and so on. And around Christmas time and holiday season, it is survival of the fittest. It is every man for themselves. But at the same time, I really did love that job, but there were some people there that just didn't know how to treat others. There's some people there that didn't understand that to gain respect, you have to earn it, or give it. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised, man. It really did push me. Like I said,
did you ever want to knock out a supervisor though?
Oh, 100%. I literally went in there. I mean, you saw my truck. I put a flag, a big American flag with a flag post on the back of my truck. I remember that. Just because of some of their reactions to either Charlie Kirk being assassinated or Trump winning. I wanted to make a point that, hey, regardless of you didn't see me complaining in the last 4 years when Biden was destroying our country. A lot of us took it in the chin and still figured out how to move forward in life. And I was hoping that would be this way, the second term for Trump. But, people really started, insulting not just him, but people that supported him and didn't even want to engage in the conversation of what policies do you like, which ones do you not like, what do you think of his rhetoric, and all these things, right? They just associate, oh, you voted for Trump and now you're a Nazi or everything else. It's pretty wild.
It is wild. The word Nazi gets thrown around like it's going out of style. Everyone is racist. Everything is racist. Everything. And it's like, really, if you keep just throwing these terms around, they lose their meaning.
Exactly.
And, I'm one that believes words have meaning. They do mean things. You can't just toss it around like it's no big deal. But a lot of this, I hear it's coming from the mainstream media. It's coming from a lot of the hard-leaning Democrats. And they're just like, yeah, Trump's a Hitler. He's a fascist. When they probably don't even know how to define the word fascist.
I don't remember, honestly. I actually looked up the definition. What was it? Probably like summer of last year. I was like, let me look at the it's being used a lot. And when you look at the definition on Google, it'll show you the trending timeline, like when this word was trending, right? And it skyrocketed the past year and a half, and I'm like, man, so I looked at the definition, then I look at how they use it. I'm like, you're not even using it right, and I was called a Nazi in Paul's Verdes, just for having a flag on my truck and my Make America Great Again hat. And it's funny because I'm actually part German. I'm like Elizabeth Warren percentage of part German and part Jewish.
No way.
Yeah, no, my grandmother, she's from Tijuana, and she was actually, I'm learning so much more about her, and she was actually deported twice from her actual mother-in-law.
No way.
And then she actually, now, I thought she was a dancer in Tijuana, but now my mom's telling me that she was the hostess at let's just say, I think they call them strip clubs in Tijuana. My grandfather was went over there.
I thought you were going to go back to salsa dancing.
No,
I'm like,
no.
So is that where you got your salsa dancing skills from?
Yeah, one of them, no, but yeah, no, my family might be mad for me for saying that, but it's one of those things where, I do believe, it's better to experience something and speak off experience and speak off actually having conversations with, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's a complete stranger, on, where they stand, where their mind is. I love learning about people. So here I am,
Yeah, I do like that. The fact of having experiences should add to your story. I think the problem with the experiences sometimes is when people take from other people's experiences and kind of makes them their own. It's like, well, you're not being very genuine. When you use someone else's experiences, we could learn from other people's experiences, but I'd rather learn from my own experiences. Yeah. And I'm happy that you're here, and this is Faith and Politics.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to dive into faith a little bit now.
Yes.
And all the political stuff, which we already touched on, we'll dive more into. But what I want to know from you, Corey, is how would you describe faith? What is faith to you? In your own words, what does faith mean?
Yeah, I grew up going to church as well. I grew up, well, not my whole life, but when I was playing Pop Warner, I started hanging out with one of my best friends playing Pop Warner with, and his dad was a pastor at a church. So
For the millions of listeners, millions of listeners
Yeah.
who don't know Pop Warner.
Okay, yeah, it's kids football, recreational football, but kind of like Little League baseball.
Gotcha.
So it's Little League baseball for football. So
cool.
So I was playing, and my
I knew that, by the way.
Yeah.
It was for the millions of listeners that didn't know.
100%.
Just saying.
But one of my good friends during that time, his dad was a pastor at a local church in Carson, and we just started, I would sleep over at his house. We played video games all night, and then I would go to church with him, and then I just love the atmosphere. I love the environment. I'm half Filipino, so I love singing. So, when you're able to sing at a Protestant church and really, clap your hands and dance, and I was all about it. And
what denomination was this church? Do you remember?
They were, man, I don't remember. I hate being wrong with things, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Sounds good.
But I mean, it was one of those things where I started actually just listening, and like I said, for me at 12 years old, I believe in the tooth fairy still at this point. So
at 12 years old,
hey, money's money, man. And if you have to believe in something.
Speaking of the tooth fairy, I was in the car with my kids from church. We went to lunch. We're driving back home, and then my 8-year-old daughter says, "Dad, is the tooth fairy real?"
Yeah.
I said, "What do you think?" And then my 10-year-old son chimes in. He goes, "No." And then I'm like, Okay, hold on. Because really what it is, with the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and Santa Claus, it's just a game that you're playing with your kids. It's not. We're not lying to them.
Is that what?
That's the way I see it now. I think it's just a little game that you play.
Okay.
I
like the elf game I saw.
The elf on a shelf
Elf
game?
on a
Yeah.
shelf. I just learned that.
It's just a game.
I'd be very good at that game.
You probably would.
I'd be very good. My kids would be devastated every Christmas because of that little elf.
So I just said to my daughter, "What do you think?" And she goes, "Well, it's just kind of weird that you're always up all night, Dad, and waiting for me to go to sleep, and I'm just trying to stay up, waiting for the Tooth Fairy to show up."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, the Tooth Fairy has to wait till you're asleep, so I don't know what to tell you."
Or during holidays, work at the post office, you have to wait till the Tooth Fairy gets back from delivering at 11 o'clock at night, right? That was wild. When I heard someone, Crosby, I think his name was.
He holds the world record.
The world record, 2:30 in the morning, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah, luckily it wasn't Compton.
Oh man.
It was Redondo Beach.
He would have made it back home with a couple bullet holes.
Oh, 100%. But I just saw a post recently of people showing people parading down Compton, one of the streets, and the whole city was saying how safe it is and everything. I'm like, I wouldn't drive there. I have a golden rule in life where I don't go past the 105 freeway anymore unless I absolutely have to. But I don't go past the 105. I usually stay in the South Bay area. I love the South Bay, born and raised, and it's changing. A lot of liberals, you know what I mean?
It's funny, when I started delivering in Redondo Beach, I heard some people say that lived there by the beach saying, "I haven't seen homeless people around here since I've been here until recently."
Yeah.
Like, it started becoming a problem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
yeah.
if your city offers like free stuff for people, they're going to come here and they might not have a place to live.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying, we should definitely help those in need.
100%.
But it's getting out of control.
It really is. We had a homeless camp by my house, probably like, a couple miles away on the main street. And they cleared them out, but you could find them. If you look inside, in the bushes, they're there still. But, out of plain sight, yes. But, it is unfortunate. And it goes back to that thing of if we truly do put Americans first, could we actually solve this problem of homelessness? Because how much money is allocated per state, on homelessness, and it's only failing. It's only getting worse. So, I do hope for one day that we can all come together, whatever side of the fence you're on or aisle that you're on, and solve things that put Americans in better positions, and then we can worry about the rest, right? Worry about the rest of the world that seems to want to come, but yeah.
So I didn't mean to cut you off earlier, but
Yeah.
you were talking about going to church.
Yeah.
What'd you call it? Pop something? The football?
Pop Warner. So
Pop Warner.
Yeah,
there
yeah.
we go.
So
we're talking about faith. What does faith mean to you?
Yeah. So I started going to church, and but I was, I'm a 12-year-old. I didn't know what God was. I went because my friends went and so forth, and thankfully I got my parents to come, and then my dad gave his life in Orlando, Florida, at a Denny's parking lot, and that changed the whole course for our family. And what faith to me is outside of believing if God was resurrected is really trusting in God's word, trusting in the wisdom that is in that book, that we all need to pick up every single day, and trusting that his promise to us, so that if we put in the work, that, we will, find purpose in life. We will, find blessings, and we will, live a successful life. And for me, that's more than anything, that's what it is. I would say, that faith is, I look at it from a standpoint of, there's faith from being a man, there's faith of being a father, there's faith of being a community at a church. And for me, faith is something I hold on to. Like I told you before, I lost it. I hit rock bottom 3 times. I had a therapist say the only thing that will save me is God.
Wow.
And
sounds like a good therapist.
And it's like they say in Proverbs, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And I'll tell you this, I also I fear God because I also fear the devil, and there was moments in my life where I would have conversations with that evil man, and I would say, hey, if you're real, you would get me this money so I could buy something for myself. And I kid you not, I would be walking at an Albertsons and $100 bill be on the floor that day that I had that conversation.
Wow.
So I also have faith because I also, saw evil one-on-one, and God got me to where I am today, where, I truly am blessed, man. I like you mentioned, I did leave the post office, and now I'm a truck driver, and, God has 10x'd my life, still working on how to steward and be frugal, but yeah, I'm all in on trying to live out his word. And because what else do we got, right? I mean, we could listen to Tim Robbins or Matthew McConaughey, who's my personal favorite, right? He wasn't on the Epstein list, thank God. But you could listen to all these people, and people search out for so many things. But in all honesty, listening to God's word has changed my life dramatically.
That's beautiful. Yeah. To me, I always think about the verse that says, I wish I could remember where it's at, but it says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
So it's something that's like, it's not tangible. I remember my brother saying that a youth group teacher said to him, oh, faith is this. And then he just blows air out of his mouth like,
yeah,
like that's faith. And it's like, huh? Yeah, it's something that you can't touch, you can't feel. But faith is like the belief in something, that something can happen.
Yeah.
It's the belief that something that you hope for can happen. And I think we can strengthen our faith when we know who our God is.
Yeah.
And of course, to me, that's Jesus.
Yes,
and
sir.
I just want everybody I know to know that there is this person named Jesus that, hey, he loves you. He died on the cross for you, and he can make your life better if you just follow his ways.
And let me tell you, I'm a very, I could say sometimes a realist or a very logical person. So one thing I do battle with is the idea of, all these books by all these different disciples and so forth can all be true, and it's much like I tell people when God brings them to me and we have a certain type of conversation. I said, you know what? I said, I'm not asking you to believe in God. I'm asking you to read Proverbs because it will change your life, So I do lean on God's word more than anything, only because, sometimes, an idle mind is a dangerous thing. And sometimes we think about, oh, where were the dinosaurs in the Bible and all these things, right? When in reality, even those answers don't mean anything to my life right now. And I'll tell you this, like I said, God's transformed my life 180 degrees. I have a wife that'll give you a testimony that'll bring you to tears because of the changes I've made. But yeah, I'm excited for what the future brings. I'm excited to, that I believe Christians are getting this country back, or at least we're fighting now. I listen to guys like Toby Martin. I listen to, the dramatic scenes of Philip Anthony Mitchell, right? But Toby Martin's someone that I really look up to as far as how he preaches and as far as his message. And it is about equipping men, and it's equipping men for that battle, whether it's in the everyday battle of being the provider, or it's the everyday battle of right or wrong. Like Toby Martin says, I think now is more time than ever that we need strong Christian men, ones that are capable of battle and fighting off evil, and we need to also hold each other accountable, because there's also those Christians that make Christianity kind of look bad when they're not living out a certain way, and then whether they're in the public eye, like we see with actors. 1 minute they're Christian, next minute they're screaming free Palestine, but not knowing context, and not knowing history and so forth and so on. So I encourage all of us to do our best in life, and try to live out God's word as best as possible. And I guarantee you'll live a good life.
Absolutely. That was a great answer. And it's funny that now that the Free Palestine thing has kind of died off now.
Where'd it go?
Well, now it's the next hot thing. It's ICE out.
ICE out. Okay,
that's the new
yes,
thing.
yes.
You got to jump from the Ukraine thing. Once that got a little boring, then you go to Palestine, and then now you go to ICE out. So you're bringing it back home.
They are. I went strong with my American flag on my truck, especially when all these the Mexico flags were everywhere. And I did warn people. I said, you know what? You're gonna turn the Mexican flag, or the Mexico's flag, into the new pride flag, where it's just unnecessary at a certain point, and especially when we see an American flag being burned next to it, and I tried warning people, it's not a good look, and
it would have been one thing. This is one thing that I heard, and it really struck me. If they were parading around the American flag, it would have made a bigger statement, I think.
Oh yeah.
But I just saw a lot of Mexican flags during the first time, the whole the first ICE raid in 2025. I'm like, what are they doing? This is not Mexico.
No.
This is the United States. Like, if you had the United States flag going around, people would probably be like, okay, that's cool. No, they're Mexican flags. I got nothing against Mexico, except I don't know if they're run by the cartels or not. Seems like it. And that president lady that they have, I don't know if she's doing a great job. She always looks kind of scared, like someone has a gun on her back.
She does.
But,
I've only been to Cabo San Lucas, I'm a timeshare guy. So that's the most Mexico I see is Cabo San Lucas. It's crazy. I've been wanting to actually drive the Baja coast, and do a little fishing adventure. And, but it's sad to go and not be able to drive through a country and really take in that country and see, monuments, and see the landmarks and all these things, and experience fishing in Baja California, right? But it's funny how people want to push turning California into Mexico sometimes. They want it, and it's scary to where, I drive. Like I said, I drive a truck, and I service pretty much the LA South Bay area, and you drive down Alameda, and it looks like TJ, like with all the vendors and people double parking and so forth. And I don't know. I love America. I was asked recently, to describe American culture. I felt sad for the person I actually had to describe American culture, and what American culture is to me, and I hope the same for everyone else. But yeah, where immigration got to is where, I do look around, especially my city of Carson, Wilmington, and I say, if I ruled a country, wouldn't I want to bring in the best of every country?
Yeah.
But when you look at what immigration and how, the left has weaponized it in the past, 10 years, 15 years, it's one of those things where it's are we bringing in the worst? You know,
Man, it seems like it. I mean, yeah, like this is what I mentioned on my last episode, is that I'm all for immigration.
Yeah.
Immigration's a good thing.
it is. It's a beautiful thing.
But we want to know who's coming in, and
As simple as that.
and I think it comes in waves. Like there are probably periods where we need a lot of immigration, and then there are periods it's like, no, we don't need immigration right now. So it's not something that could be steadily inflowing at all the time.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me. I think there should be a moment where we say, hey, you know what, we need these types of people here, these types of people here. Someone with some skills that they can bring to this country.
Yeah.
And then work them in. Like, yeah, maybe the immigration system is not perfect, but I always hear politicians saying they're going to try to fix that, but they never do anything about it.
They never do, and that's the big thing on this whole weaponization talk. And my wife was illegal. My wife was actually illegal. We met on Bumble. We're a Bumble success story, and it's funny because after 100 days of meeting her, from the day I met her to when we got engaged was about 100 days.
Wow.
Wow. No, I go all in. I go all in.
Some people call that a shotgun wedding.
No, but we didn't get married right away. But I did ask her to marry me, and it's funny because
did you get down on one knee?
I got down on one knee. Even at 40 years old, I still have, a decent knee. So I got down. And it's funny because she,
You got one decent knee. The other one, could use some work.
I'm a percentage guy. And I told her, I said, I look at statistics when if I go into a certain city, I said, hey, what's the statistics of me getting robbed right now, right? That's what we have to do in 2026 in LA. We have to know our surroundings. So, I told her, I said, man, statistically, I was a bad bet back then, but I like I said, because of God, man, and the transformation He did in my life, it turned out for her. But no, she was illegal. She was hiding in a truck. She was hiding in my truck when ICE raids were going down, and
that's crazy.
Oh yeah, I dealt with hard mornings of her crying, not knowing if she'll get deported or whatnot, and like I said before, a lot of my take on things is from first person experience. And if I didn't live it, then, I do my best,
I do want to get into all that.
Yeah.
But before we go there, and I'm just going to go check out my computer, make sure everything's running on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question so you can answer it while I go check that real quick. But Trump got elected in 2024. He ran.
Beautifully.
He wins. Of course, he had to escape death a few times, which, it's a little obstacle, right?
You can't call it spiritual warfare and not be willing to die. You know what I mean? And that's where, that's where we are, man.
Not only did they try killing him, they tried incarcerating him. All these weirdo ladies that used to be porn stars come out and saying, hey, actually 40 years ago he did touch me over here. Like, oh yeah, why didn't you mention that before?
100%.
You just wait till right before he's gonna run for president. Just out of the blue.
At least they were all good-looking women. I always say this. I say, if my president, I want my president to pull baddies, right?
Okay, I know. How much percentage of alcohol is
I don't know.
Johnny Walker double black because the women were good-looking?
Let me tell you.
I don't know. How many fingers am I holding
Some of them were good-looking,
up?
right? The one where he was partying with Epstein and they were actually adults,
Okay.
They were beautiful.
That's true. That's true. Hopefully they weren't minors, but yeah.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
You do have a point.
I'll tell you this. We took a gamble. We took a gamble backing Trump, not knowing if he is or was. And I was asked, I was like, what if Trump's on that Epstein list? I said, well, you know what? He'll go to hell as well. There's a thing about accountability that we hold everyone to, So,
they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I think that's not entirely true. I think we know beauty when we see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if someone can identify beauty, then they probably are an intelligent person. So Trump knows what beauty
Exactly.
is. That's why he's smart, and that's why he should be president. But yeah, so he wins he gets inaugurated in 2025. It's been a year.
It's been a year.
What I want to hear from you, Corey, while I check the computer.
Yes, sir.
What do you think of his first year back in the office? What are your thoughts?
I mean, first and foremost, love what Trump's doing in office. I mean, gas prices haven't went above $5. I could buy eggs right now at a Mexican market for $2.99, even $1.99. Costco $7.99 for $18. So all the talking points that the left try to downplay Trump's first year in office, things are backfiring on them. I think our stock market, as far as look at your retirement, but
I'm getting a good tax return this year.
You're getting a good tax
My
return.
wife hasn't even told me because she did the TurboTax.
Yeah.
She hasn't even told me because she was like, when I asked her, we were on the phone. She's like, I'm in public. I can't say it right now. And I was like, wow, this must be good.
This must be
so
good.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me a really good tax return this year.
Yeah, and you know what? We're living in tough times, sure. Like I said, I might have. The grass is greener on the other side with this new job. I'll tell you that. As far as the pay and so forth, but I'm still struggling. I'm still living check to check, and when I have conversations with people on and I'm big on local government now. I'm big. I love what Trump's doing. It's like we'll get into his first year, but I'm big on local government now, man. I'm really rooting for Chad Bianco to win. California governor. I'm even considering Spencer Pratt on the mayor of LA at this point.
Wow.
Yeah, just because you know what? I just saw that socialist, the Democratic socialist, trying to be the mayor of L.A. She's in the running now, and that's scary to me. Looking at what's happening in New York and so forth. So, but back to Trump's first year. Could he put things better? His rhetoric, I always say, Obama said it better, right? I'm like, yeah, he did, but he also lied a lot, man.
Oh, he sure did.
Oh, he did.
Remember when he said you can keep your doctor with Obamacare?
You know what? And that's the big thing with me. It's just when I hit people with certain things.
Remember when he said Obamacare will make healthcare affordable?
Make healthcare
and now
affordable.
people can't afford it.
I'm still I hope the government doesn't hear this podcast because I'm still on Medicare, Medi-Cal, and I got on it when I was out of a job, and I gave mouth to mouth to a dead baby goat, and I got really sick. And
I'm so glad he said goat at the end of that
I did.
line right
there.
Yeah,
I gave mouth to mouth
scared
to
for
a goat.
second.
And then I got really sick. I went septic, I believe it is, where all your organs shut down.
Wow.
Yeah, they thought I had HIV, so thank God I didn't. And I had this rare bacterial disease, and you know what? California came through for me then. I'm happy, but at the same time, I can't afford it. I can't afford to pay my mortgage, and
Crazy question. Have you thought about moving to a different state?
100%.
I have too.
Oh, yeah.
There was a couple years back, several years back. Yeah, I thought about moving to Tennessee.
Tennessee, you know what? My wife loves Tennessee.
Yeah.
I believe, I might pronounce it wrong, but there's Lebanon. I see Lebanon, Tennessee.
Yes.
Is it Lebanon?
I think it's Lebanon. I think you're
Lebanon.
right.
It's spelled the same way, right? We're going to say it the American way. It's Lebanon.
It's Lebanon.
It's Lebanon. But, I love Earl, Texas, near Lake Fork, Texas. I'm a big fishing guy, and that's one of the best bass fisheries in the world, really, but also in America. I took my wife to Utah for our anniversary because we couldn't fly because she was here illegally, right? So we couldn't fly. So I took her to Utah to see Zion, and she loved it, man. And I saw one homeless person the entire time in Utah, and he was dressed better than me, right? But I like it too, and we definitely I thought about business in Utah. I went to that extent or that great length of really wanting to get out of California, and I even said my wife could look Korean and we could open up a Korean barbecue spot, So yeah, but no, but I also love Central Northern California. You could still buy land for a couple $100,000 to get 40 acres.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm scared of where California's heading. I do hope that people do realize what the Democratic Party has done to our state. I mean,
what do you think of Gavin Newsom?
You know what? I just don't like him. I don't trust him. I don't like him. The way he uses his hands now and everything like that. He just sounds like a BSer, man. You know what he sounds like?
If I had to choose between Gavin Newsom and It the Clown to watch my kids, It the Clown.
It the Clown,
Clown.
And it's funny because it's like he's the prime example of what everyone voted for before. He was that politician. He was, slick back hair. He would tell you what you wanted to hear and all these things. But like Obama, those subsidies went up, on your healthcare plan, and opened the floodgates when, this whole idea of, make healthcare affordable for everyone. Well, the working class people are starting to feel it, man.
He was mayor of San Francisco, right?
I believe
I think so.
I think so,
And it's going downhill.
Oh, the whole state, man. But
it's not the same. It used to be a beautiful place to go to, but not anymore, from what I hear.
And I just tell people, like, can we just try something different? Can we really just try something different here in California? And you know what? People are waking up. I warned people before. I think it was last year. I says, you know what? The working class blue collar American is going to wake up in this next year and a half, 2 years, when they saw how unaffordable life was, and then they see people that are taking advantage of a system that Democrats, push, which is, welfare. I tell people all the time, stand in line at a grocery store, and the person in front of you will likely be someone that has a cart full of junk food, and darn well that if they worked for that money, they wouldn't buy that food. So yeah, I
what do you have against Oreos?
Hey man, they are vegan. I did try being vegan for a little bit, and I would eat Oreos. Yeah, I would eat Oreos. The tofurkey or whatever it is. I forgot what it is, but yeah.
So you went vegan. I forgive you.
Yeah.
But then you relapsed, came back to normal food.
Yes.
Well, what made you come back to the good side?
I just grew up on a Filipino diet. I eat beef. I eat beef and pork. I told my wife, I said, man, we're really, eating a lot of pork belly. We eat it like 4 days a week.
It's really tasty.
It is. No.
What can I say?
I got a wife straight from I always say the jungles of the Philippines, only because she had a pet monkey growing up.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but she cooks traditional Filipino food the same way my grandmother did growing up, and and I did. And when I was looking to start dating again, I was dating with intent, and I think that's what the Christian way of dating is we don't date just to hook up. We date to really find a wife, because a man that finds a wife finds favor in the Lord, or from the Lord.
Yeah, definitely. Where was it going to go now?
We're just everywhere,
Which is fine.
I'm a talker, man.
Yeah, we were talking about Trump's
first term. So
you're a perfect podcast guest. Oh, you want talkers.
I go everywhere, But back to his first term, sure, were there a lot of moments where I woke up and I said, damn, Trump, like, why'd you have to say it like that? Or why'd you say this? Or why'd you say that?
I like that you mentioned that. This is the thing that I learned about Trump. He'll say whatever's on his mind at that very second, no filter, and just says it. Doesn't care if it's going to sound good or sound bad. And I kind of like that about him.
100%.
But you have to know that he says a lot of stuff. He says a lot of crap.
He does.
And you just can't take every single thing seriously. And the reason why you can't is because you will go crazy.
You will.
But the downside is, the people on the other side of the aisle are going to use every little thing he says against him.
It's like defending your vote, right? And defending your vote every time he says something stupid, right? But at the same time, I'd much rather, and I look at it, so the same people that are talking about Trump's tone of voice or rhetoric and how he speaks, me and that same person talk to each other the same exact way as Trump talks, right?
He's a normal dude.
He's a normal dude. That's
he's
the
not
big
a
thing.
slimy politician
He's
like
not.
Gavin Newsom.
No, I want at this point in life where I'm living check to check, even though I work 60 hours a week. I want the cards laid out, bud. I want the cards laid out, and I want someone to just, tell me how it is, right? If we're collapsing, then we're collapsing, right? If we're about to go to war, then let's put some boots on, right? So, but it's been a great first year, man. It's been a great first year. I mean, we saw fentanyl deaths at a record low, and who can't appreciate that, right? We saw, we didn't see a crane or forklift lifting up the border like we saw the barbed wire fence being lifted up in Texas and all those migrants coming through, right? And then people's retirements are growing. People's opportunity. He's stopping BlackRock from buying single family homes. How can you argue that? If we want to say talk about the rich and talk about what happened to the American dream, well stopping a big company or corporation or stopping them from monopolizing the real estate market, right, is a big part of that. So there's things that are happening that I'm really happy with, but it does put me in a position where like you see, I do wear a Make America Great Again hat. I do have a nice flag on my truck, and any chance I get, I defend truth, more than anything. I defend what's really going on in America or even California, and I don't back down easily, bud.
No, that's great. I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, yes, Trump says a lot of stuff that he probably shouldn't, but at least he can speak English, unlike Joe Biden. But here's a couple of things that a little list that I found. The things that I think these are Trump's accomplishments.
Yeah.
Let's see. For starters, he banned men and women's sports.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, men, play with the men. Hey, women, play with the women.
Yeah.
I
almost went back to college for just a free college education and played softball, women's softball.
You were about to play softball?
Oh, I was offered in was it 2005 by the Tampa Bay Devil Rays as a shortstop. And I'll tell you this right now, with being 20 years out the game, I could go play Division I softball right now and play at a high level. I'd probably break some records,
I was about to join the women's soccer team. I think I could have made, number one VIP.
You just wouldn't look as good.
Nah, I wouldn't look as good. With my hairy legs, no way.
No.
Let's see. Trump ended like 8 wars.
8 wars. And no Nobel Peace Prize, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Liberated a country and no Nobel Peace Prize.
They stopped bombing Gaza.
They stopped.
Thank you, Trump.
Things are, you know what? This man, he gets things done.
He gets them done.
And we know what we're getting. All this he said beforehand, right? And the majority still voted for him. The Russian hoax didn't deter us this time. The January 6ers didn't deter us this time, right?
Don't forget, that was the worst day.
The worst day in American history
was January 6th.
Forget the D-Day survivors and victims and the men and women that gave their life in 9/11, right?
9/11, no. January 6th was way worse. They had a little tour of the Capitol there.
They did.
It was scary.
Yeah.
Some guy had a crazy feather
But now
hat.
we're seeing, the funny thing about January 6th is that now we're seeing it's almost justified, right? The election was, with Russian Gate and Obama, where we are starting to see that, I'm sorry to say, but I almost bought the hat. I went to that Still Beach store that's getting harassed because they are Make America Great Again. I went this past weekend.
Oh, cool.
I went. It was a good time. They didn't know how to react to me at first. They were like, "Oh, is he going to be an agitator or is he going to be a supporter?" Right? And I go in there and I'm in full support, obviously, and I buy a couple things, but yeah,
and you said, "Wait, folks, drop your weapons."
Hey.
I'm with you
It's
guys.
okay, you guys. It's okay. Once you know what's the funny is once people hear my voice, it's like they're like, oh wow, I guess my friends or acquaintances in middle school who always made fun of me for sounding white. I guess it pays off, in certain situations.
I
right?
suppose
It's
funny
meetings.
Funny you
In
mentioned
your
that.
career.
I'll never forget. You did mention something when I started doing my podcast. You did mention, oh yeah, I like your podcast. I like what you're doing. You encouraged me to go a little bit longer because I was trying to keep it at 20 minutes, and then I tried to bump it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I took your advice. I tried doing that, and then you also said, oh, and you're a Latino, so you could reach a certain demographic.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that stuck with me. Like, I'm the kind of person where I don't think the way you look matters.
It doesn't.
I think your character matters.
Yeah.
That's one of the only good things that I like about Martin Luther King is he has that quote that I always think about. As far as his moral failings, that's another story.
Hey,
but I do think
that's a big one.
That is a big one.
It's a big one.
But he did say, I want to see a world where my children are judged on the content of their character
100%.
rather than the color of their skin. I think that alone, that's like the one thing that's attributed to him.
Yeah.
And that's one of the only things. Like there are celebrities; they've done bad things, but I think you could still admire the good things.
Yeah.
Except
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro.
He let me down. I'm being honest. Robert
He's a
De
little
Niro.
crazy.
He let me down.
I don't know.
I just watched
maybe...
The Intern. I love The Intern.
Yeah.
I love Bronx. Was he in Bronx Tale? I believe he was in Bronx
remember.
Tale. One of those, they're all like kind of similar. But I loved watching Robert De Niro movies growing up. And, he really let me down, man.
I don't know. Maybe those jazz cigarettes really got to his head or something. I don't know, man.
That guy. If Matthew McConaughey turns on me, then we're going to have a problem. Then I'm going full, ice whistle
I know.
At the Grammys and everything like that.
I know what you're saying. We lost Leonardo DiCaprio a long time ago.
Did you see that new movie he did?
Oh yeah, it was a total leftist propaganda.
Oh my
was
gosh,
it one
dude.
battle after the next? I think is what it was called.
That. I did watch it.
I didn't watch it. What would you tell me about it?
It is exactly what you described. It's the biggest propaganda movie that I've seen in my life, actually, because of just how the plot thickens and the story plays out. And,
let me guess. Hollywood movie. Let me just take a wild guess.
Yes.
White people are the evil people.
They are always evil, man.
Have you noticed? That's the thing. White people are casted to play the evil role.
Yes.
Black people are played to be the saviors of the story.
Yes.
It's just I see it so much. It's like, look,
it's racism in plain sight. That's what I see, in all honesty, right? So I grew up in the inner cities of LA, right? And let's say I grew up in Carson / Wilmington, and my whole life, and this is something I recognized recently, is the mentality and the mindset of these victim-minded people, right? Especially if we work with them or if we know them around, that grew up in the same environment as we did. And the big thing that a lot of us were taught here in, let's say, in the inner cities of LA was, don't go to Torrance, don't go to Redondo Beach, don't go to El Segundo because because they say that the police are racist, right?
Oh, okay.
So they
I might have heard that too.
Yeah. So from an early age, we're fed this information and this negative outlook of white cops, right? But in reality, I was asked recently or I was told recently, affluent, crime happens in affluent areas. And I told him, I said, well, my mom lives in the most affluent area in Riverside, and there was a spree of home invasions. Right, there was a kid that got duct taped. There was a man that got stabbed in the stomach.
Oh, that's crazy.
100%. It was scary. It was scary. And my brother-in-law is a sheriff, or is a retired sheriff, and my sister has been a probation officer for 25 years, and they were in fear, right? And but I told him, I said, well, in the affluent area that I have experience with, the crime was coming from the bad areas, right? The ghetto, the hood, whatever you want to call it.
It's never from within.
No, and I told him, I said, if you go to an affluent area, especially nowadays, it's an amazing thing. You could go to a Stater Brothers, right? You go to Stater Brothers, and people say hello to you. People say, hey, how you doing today, right? You go to Albertsons and Carson on Sepulveda. Go there any night of the week, right? One, you're going to be harassed by kids selling candy that don't look like they're in middle school or even high school anymore. And then you go inside, and if you were to say hello to someone or, hey, how's it going? Or even hold a door open for someone, they don't say hello back. They don't say thank you for, holding the door open anymore. And it's just mind-boggling to me on how people think, white people are bad, but then think that it's okay to live in almost like a third world country. Right. And almost in a place where it's not welcoming. Right. So, I'm all about affluent areas. The funny, because like I tell people about my mom's area that she lives in Riverside, it's called Mission Grove. It's like the Palos Verdes of Riverside. I mean, there's $1 million homes. The wealthiest person in her area is Mexican. So it's amazing, right? What you could do when you put your mind to something, right? No oppression, nothing. You can be the richest person in your neighborhood, no matter what your skin color is, and that's what I tried to, educate people on, or even just talk to people on, of this different perspective.
Right. That's what America is all about. If you have a goal in mind, you can accomplish that goal if you put your mind to it. If you work on it,
yes, focus
on it. Try not to get distracted by things that are going to, bring you down. Yeah, it's possible. That's the American dream.
Yeah. Hearing your intro, I've actually taken a break from listening to podcasts for the past couple months, only because it was affecting my mental health. I don't like using mental health because as men, we're really supposed to not react off emotion. But, when you're driving a big rig and you get ticked off easily because you might have listened to a podcast the night before and now you're angry at people. Then you see a bunch of people that, might not be from the country that are driving, cutting you off and driving in the shoulder. And I get to that point where I get angry. So, but I do miss your intros. I love hearing your intros. They sound really good, man.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you. All the positive feedback I can get, it motivates me to keep doing this. This is just a hobby. It's just for fun. If it takes off at some point, great.
We got to go viral.
I know.
Let's go viral today.
Well, with your help, I think
I could say a lot of things, right? It's funny because I want to create T-shirts where I just create T-shirts that I want to wear, right?
Funny T-shirts?
Like funny T-shirts, right?
You should.
I know.
Sounds fun.
I had one where it's like this whole thing of like, we're taking back the rainbow. We're taking back the rainbow from the alphabet people. And I was going to have a kid's drawing of a rainbow, and I was going to have that Genesis verse where, the rainbow is a symbol of God's covenant on earth, right? So I was going to go biblical, but also it was going to attack, right? It's like going to
a little bit, just a little jab.
Just a little jab. There's nothing wrong with it, right? But in reality, that rainbow is for children, right?
It should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking of another one recently that was pretty bad though, but it was bad. But I was like, you know what? At this point, because Democrats have redefined what a fascist is, right? Redefine what a Nazi is. I was like, I'm going to make a T-shirt that says, I'd rather be a Nazi than a liberal, But I think that'll kind of be a little too much, right?
Going back to when you went into that store in Seal Beach and you started talking and they kind of let their guard down. It's funny because I experienced something in high school. I was in a Spanish for Spanish speakers class. So, a bunch of Hispanic Latino students.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this one guy. His name was Juan. And he comes up to me. He goes, "Hey, Andrew, can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. What's up?" He goes, "What are you?" And I'm like, "What am I? What do you mean?" He's like, "Are you Caucasian?" And I was like, "Bruh, look at me. Look, you see this swarthy skin here?"
I mean, you're not as tanned, Like, I'm really brown, you know what I mean?
No, I am.
Yeah, you're little.
Give me a work week delivering the mail, and I start to look like south of the border people, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. But I'll never forget it.
It's funny because
I'm like, Caucasian. What are you talking about?
You know what's funny is because I'm a big person, especially now more than ever. Where I'm just American, man. Like like I said, I've only been to Cabo San Lucas. I've been in Puerto Nuevo.
I've been to TJ. I was a little kid, but just because my parents took us on a little vacation to a beach there.
Okay, you didn't go to Hong Kong then?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And I've never really been out of the country.
Yep.
But yeah, I just been to TJ, but I don't think that even counts because we just spent a night there, and the whole time my parents were like, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna eat any meat here. They say the meat's bad."
Yeah, you get a stomach ache.
So it was more just like a little quick trip. But other than that, I haven't been anywhere. I've only been here.
Yeah.
I've been to Hawaii, but that's still in the States.
Yeah.
Been to Florida for a second. Oh, you know what? I went to the
love
Bahamas.
Florida.
I went to
Yeah.
the Bahamas.
Okay.
I forgot. On a cruise.
That's still kind of America.
Kind of.
It should be. I think we should just take it.
Speaking, I got to be careful with my cables here.
Yeah.
Speaking of America,
Yeah.
the other thing Trump did for us, Gulf of America,
Gulf of America.
no longer Gulf of
I
Mexico.
actually bought a sport fishing shirt. I forgot the brand name, but I bought a sport fishing shirt that said Gulf of America on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We have.
It sounds better.
It does sound better.
It does.
And what's the?
We're gonna change New Mexico next.
I hope so.
We're gonna call it New America.
New America.
That's what we're gonna call it.
I mean, if you really think about it, the Gulf of America. I'm going to say the correct term now.
Yeah.
Gulf of America. The Gulf does cover more of America than it does Mexico, right?
And that's
it only makes sense.
Back to this whole American thing, right? I encourage people all the time, especially like let's say if you're from the Latino community, is look at your heritage. I never did it, but I'm assuming that my sisters will be kind of the same but different percentages. And I actually have no Aztec in me. I have no Mayan in me.
Really?
I'm actually Spanish.
So am I. Half Spanish, half Native.
Yeah.
According to my 23andMe.
So I'm either living on stolen land from the Spaniards or stolen land of Aztecs and Mayans or the Tonga tribe, the Tongva tribe.
All right. Okay, here we go. What do you celebrate? Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day?
I celebrate Columbus Day, brother.
Columbus
Yes,
Day.
sir.
We wouldn't be here if
I
it
watched
wasn't for Columbus.
Pocahontas. I watched Pocahontas that night with my
Wait,
wife.
Elizabeth Warren?
No, not Elizabeth Warren.
the real
No.
Pocahontas.
Yeah, the real one. Yeah, the cartoon's prettier than the live version.
That's true. But I hear they're making a remake and they're going to make Pocahontas black.
Yeah,
So.
I'm sure.
Right.
I'm sure. You know what? I was thinking about in this whole talk of diversity is I think we need an Asian. We need an Asian in government, in power. They're good with money. They can't drive, and guess what? Like J.D. Vance said,
They can't drive, so they have to stay in the White House.
No, not just that, but J.D. Vance said the saddest thing that he now has to live with being vice president is he doesn't get to go on drives with his family because that's what him and his family love to do is go drive, right? So it'd actually work out because if we took away, at least one, I'm half Asian, so I can say this, but at least one Asian's ability to drive, right? And now he gets escorted everywhere. Then, it's a win-win, but they're good with money, They're selective racists to a degree, right? And like everyone, but yeah, no. We need some diversity. We need an Asian. I'll take me. I don't want a Somalian. We've seen what they did,
That's
right?
true. When an
They
Asian
just
walks
give out
in-
money.
When an Asian walks into the room, I never scream.
You never scream.
Anyway.
Yeah, and you eat good. You eat good.
Chinese food is good.
Chinese food is good.
I do like me some Panda Express, authentic Chinese.
That's my wife's favorite.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Panda Express is as American as Taco Bell.
Yes, it is.
Another thing Trump did, no tax on tips.
Dude. But see, here's the thing with that, man. See, I'm called red collar, Mr. Red Collar at work, right? I work around a lot of Latinos and
Wait. You mean Latinx?
Latinx, yeah, exactly. and they call me red collar. They call me a lot of things. But you know what's cool? I respect them because we're still friends. You know what I mean? They still train me to the best of their ability, all these things. But the one thing that I love is my buddy Alex from work. He calls himself a conservative Democrat, right?
All right.
Yeah, it's a new one for me.
Conservative.
Yeah.
I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm Democrat, but I'm fiscally conservative."
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on Stephen A. Don't get me started on the Chris Kumos. There's no we're not half-assing anything here in life anymore. I think we've hit the point where we can't half-ass anything. If you want to say I'm far right or right or a Republican or a Christian nationalist, you can call me whatever you want, man. But I follow the truth, and the truth is that look at states. I tell people all the time, like my friend Alex, because his whole thing is we're gonna get taxed anyways, right? And I said, imagine if we didn't, though. Why? Look at Florida. Look what Florida's doing. They're not paying a state income tax, right? And it's like
neither is Tennessee, which is
Tennessee.
The other reason why I thought about moving out there.
Lebanon. The only Lebanon I'd move to is Lebanon, Tennessee. You get a house under $500K. You can't even buy a house in Compton right now. You can't buy a house in Compton under $650,000.
Or if you do, it's like a 1-bedroom and your roommate's a rat, like
and
a literal rat. But the possums can stay.
You could probably buy fentanyl across the street. It's
for cheap.
For cheap, But yeah, I really, I like where America's headed. I like where America's headed. It might be a little battle, feelings are hurt. But
one battle after the next, according to that movie. Let's see. Border crossings went down 90%.
Hey, man.
Is that a good thing or not? Well, I don't know.
You know what? It's funny because I tell people I lived immigration. You know what I mean? But hearing my wife, as she was going through this process of not knowing what would happen next, right? She also came to this country and she was working for $3 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, that wasn't like 30 years ago. That was 7 years ago. She was
crazy.
Making $3 an hour, being a nanny, right? So to see how companies or even people utilize illegal immigration for their benefit, man, it's a sad thing, man. It's a sad thing.
Definitely. I mentioned this on my previous episode. Like, my dad came over to this country not the correct way,
Mm-hmm.
but he was living in harsh conditions in El Salvador, and when he came over here, I think the distinction is my dad didn't commit crimes while he was here.
Yeah.
I mean, some people will say crossing the border is a crime, but aside from that, he wasn't out trying to hustle people and steal and hurt people or anything like that. No, he was doing it for his family.
Yeah.
And eventually he did get his citizenship.
Yeah.
Like, I know there are people in this country, they've been here 40 years still.
My Theo
no citizenship.
My next door neighbor, Theo Pancho, who I love, I'd take a bullet for that man. And
that's real love,
but
right
he's
there.
still I have to have hard conversations with him, like, Pancho, go get your citizenship. He's had his permanent green card for God knows how long, and he just doesn't want to go through the process. And now he says that pendejo Trump, but at the same time,
Pancho, if you're listening, come on.
No,
come on, do what's right, Pancho.
No,
if you're listening,
what I love about Pancho is he lives his truth, man. Let me tell you this. So he'll say "pendejo Trump," right? Which for non-Spanish speakers is like stupid Trump, I believe. And but at the same time, we have neighbors that live near us that have like 8 people living there. They'll park their car on the grass and so forth. And then Pancho at the same time will speak out against and lose friends over, telling people this isn't Mexico. Like, this isn't how we do things here, right? So I have these crazy conversations with Pancho.
That's the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah, and it's funny. So I find him in tough situations at times, but me and him is a prime example of something that's beautiful, where 2 mature adults can have conversations and joke around over a glass of whiskey.
Like, hey, stop parking your cars on the lawn. This isn't Mexico. Wait, are you American? Oh, hell no.
No. Oh, yeah. And he'll talk about, the apartment people, having, nicer cars than both of us, and parking very badly on our street. I had to leave a note recently on a car, and I told him, I said, because they're blocking my driveway, and my wife is Asian, right? So she has
you're looking out for your wife.
No, and she literally will call me crying, saying I can't back out of the driveway.
Oh, literally. Okay.
Yeah, like, she's bad at driver. She's not that great, and but at the same time, so I left a note saying, like, hey, I'll pay to have this car towed, and then I also said, if you can't afford a house, buy one, or if you can't find parking, buy a house, right? And I say this in the sense of, like, we need to make America affordable again, right? And also too, there's certain habits that we need to change personally in order to break stereotypes, break tradition, break the the generational oppression, right? That a lot of people use nowadays in a certain demographic. But yeah, I just feel like, we have to, live a certain way and things will get better, right? We don't have to necessarily live in the hood and feel like we live in the hood.
But a lot of it is what people do with their lives. I think there's the Brookings Institute says, if you do these 3 things, you will not be poor in this country. 1, finish high school. 2, get a job.
Yeah.
3, don't have kids before you're married.
Yeah.
If you do those 3 things, you're guaranteed not to be poor in this country.
And it's like kind of what like Dana White said, right? In one of his interviews, he said, if you're a savage right now, if you're willing to work overtime, if you're willing to bust your back, you could really get ahead right now, and I, like I said, I'm testimony of that. All I did, and I love the post office for humbling me because it taught me how to show up every day to work, put a smile on your face no matter what circumstance it is, and get the job done. And don't put your workload on anyone else's back but your own, because like, as at the post office, those fake injuries come out. I call it, that was the hard part. I worked with a lot of liberals at the post office. A lot of liberals that faked injuries that next, I'm forced to cover 4 hours of overtime on a day that I just didn't feel like it, right? And so, I work hard and you could really get ahead in life. And I think that's what we saw in Trump's first year is opportunity is actually there.
Absolutely. Going through the list of other things in Trump's first year.
Yeah.
Ended federal funding for so-called gender-affirming surgeries for kids.
Okay, let me ask you one question.
Yes.
This is what I tell Christians, okay? If you're a Christian, okay, name me one policy, like major policy on the left that a Christian can support, right? So they pushed, the alphabet, agenda, right? We saw pride flags at every sporting event. We saw pride flags on the White House my favorite aunt is lesbian, right? Or was, or I don't know what. But I'll say this is no one cares about your gender. No one cares about your sexual preference.
Good point.
Right?
I feel like the people who push that, it's like their sexuality is like the biggest thing about them. Yeah. And you don't see the same thing with straight people. We're not here flaunting our straightness. No. But for some reason, it's like their sexuality. Oh, I'm queer.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm bi.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm a
woman.
I'm two-spirit animal, whatever.
Oh,
and
my
it's like,
gosh.
Part of me wants to say, who cares? I would rather get to know something interesting about you. Just like, you're telling me all these crazy stories. I'm like, that's why Corey is interesting to me. Not because what he likes to do with his genitals.
No.
I don't care what you do with your genitals.
You do not want to know what goes on in my wife's room, okay? And no one should want to know. Right?
No, I don't want to know.
You don't.
And I see this in TV. Like my wife and I watch 90 Day Fiance. That's our guilty pleasure.
I'm living that.
The way I see it, it's our telenovela that our parents used to watch back in the day. And every now and then you get the producers asking, "Oh, how was the first time in bed?" It's like, why do these producers have to ask those kinds of questions?
We live in a very, perverse world nowadays. I watch American Idol, right? I watch American Idol, and I see is it Lionel Richie? Who's the? I know it's Katy Perry. It's the country
Cowell
single. You have Simon Cowell, Simon Cowell's is something else now. But then you have
it might be Lionel Richie.
I think it's Lionel Richie, right? But watch as every young kid that goes on, like especially young women that are under 18, look at his eyes when he like talks to them, and it's like, and I look at it in the sense of like, man, dude, like, there's a lot of things coming about, especially when we talk about this spiritual warfare I believe now is not the time to just say, hey, let's just love everybody. No, like I was telling you earlier, I said, I started looking at the historical side of the Bible when God destroyed the Syrian army, 185,000 troops that he killed, when he flooded the Egyptian army, right? So, I think God promotes love, but also, too, I think, if we're going to call it a spiritual warfare right now, we also have to sit there and say, you know what? We have to be the tip of that sword, It's like that one famous verse where he says, when God says, who am I going to call? And, and I forgot what person the Bible says, God call me. That's where we need to be. We need to hold people accountable. We need to, put our faith on the line and really try to change this course of where America was headed, man. We saw, I just saw a girl getting sexually assaulted on a wrestling match. It just happened recently, like in the last week or two.
I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, by all means, sleep with who you want to. But, we saw in the Olympics with that boxer, I think it was Pakistani or whatever, Middle Eastern boxer who destroyed that girl and it could have caused, crazy damage. And I think she did, or broke some sort of, bone in her face. But it's one of those things where, now people are actually getting hurt. People out now.
And didn't it just come out that was actually a man?
Yeah. They ran tests, and, and her testosterone levels and so forth and so on, but it's just crazy to me. Like, I heard that comedian nowadays where it's like, what transgender people prove? They prove that you could be anything you want to be as long as you put your mind to it, and I was busting up when I heard that.
The only thing that they can't be or that they don't choose to be is their actual, sex that they are.
Yeah. I just say this as men to men, if you're going to, I'd say man to man. If I was talking to that, trans woman, I would literally say, man up and cut it off. You know what I mean? Man up,
All right, I'm going to run through this list.
Let's keep going through the list, dude.
The first year, Trump, what he's accomplished. Okay, he had Doge.
Dude.
What I liked about Doge is that it just exposed the corruption in the federal
poor Teslas that got destroyed during Doge.
Those poor little Teslas. They're just out here trying to save the planet. That's all they're doing.
I was delivering on my route, and literally 3 Teslas on my route got vandalized, and there was police there and everything.
No way.
And it's funny because they were people of color that own those Teslas.
They're like, "What just happened?"
I'm like, "They're doing the work for me. They're gonna flip. They're gonna flip red before you know it."
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. They're like, "Wow, these people on the left side of the aisle, they're insane.
They're crazy, man.
I do not want to be on their side."
No.
I've seen. You don't know how many Teslas I've seen in Redondo Beach that say, "I bought this car before Elon went crazy." What? Crazy. SpaceX, we're going to space. He invented PayPal so we could buy stuff online.
Have you ever seen
what else? Tesla saving the planet before it was cool?
But have you ever seen a rocket come back?
That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
In my life. Next to the new Top Gun movie. Like, that was like, I was in awe.
I got my kids. I said, "Kids, gather around my cell phone screen real quick. You got to see this."
Yes.
And they're like, "What's happening?" A rocket.
And that's what I mean by that's the kind of immigrants we need in this country. We need like the Elons. Give me the Elon of Singapore, of the Philippines. Well, you know what? Filipinos, I'll back my people on this one. There's a lot of Filipino nurses. You know what I mean?
There is.
It's like Theo Von said, a Filipino's the last person you're going to see before you die. You know what I mean?
You know what other immigrant I like? E.T.
E.T.
He came to planet Earth.
Yep.
He learned English.
And
then he went home.
Yeah.
All right. The other thing that Trump did, he freed the hostages.
He freed the hostages.
Oh,
don't even get me started on Palestine.
We'll be here all night.
I was called a Zionist. So I've been called everything in the book, right? I've been called a racist. I've been called a Zionist. I've been called a Nazi. I've been called a traitor. I've been called whitewashed. And this is all within like a year and a half span. You know, luckily, my wife always, reassures me that, she loves exactly who I am as a person, right? But yeah, no, yeah, we heard it all.
Yeah. See, Trump also pardoned 23 pro-life activists.
Isn't that beautiful?
What I don't understand is the people on the left. Here's my theory. I think they go to the left because they hate God.
Yeah.
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 So, and they don't believe in him, and then they want nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
You got pro-life activists praying at the abortion clinics. Well, why are they getting mad? They already believe prayer doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So why have them arrested?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
But you know what? We're playing mind games with them now, because now as we're trying to take away gun rights for transgenders, now we have the left fighting for gun rights. So, Trump's a genius. You know what I mean? Trump's a genius.
Mm-hmm. And they're fighting for freedom of speech too.
Man, they tried taking that. Then that was the big thing that I just disliked, was when they, cancel culture came about.
Cancel culture, political
but
correctness.
They won't cancel anyone on their own, right? When we found out BLM was a fraud, they didn't cancel them still.
No.
But you know what? That tide's shifting too.
And it's cool. Yeah, the tide is shifting, because now we can say gay and retarded, and it's like nothing ever happened.
Like,
We're back to
no, but real
2006.
But exactly. No, you know what? See, that's the problem, is that I believe that Make America Great Again, right? Make America Great Again is really divine intervention. Is divine intervention because of where America was headed, right? And it got to that point where I grew up on Al Bundy. I grew up on Tim the Toolman Taylor. I grew up on, even...
Oh, that's back on Netflix, one of the streaming platforms.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's great.
Oh, I'm in my building era in life, right? So, but they said everything, right? And nothing was sensitive, even old Dave Chappelle, not the new one, not the new woke Dave, right? Who tried saying, hold on real quick, who tried saying that we shouldn't compare Charlie with Martin Luther King. But last I heard, Charlie never, cheated or beat his wife.
Good point.
Right?
I'm going to be honest. I like old Dave. I even like new Dave.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the funniest comedians I've ever heard. I don't agree with everything he says.
He's a genius.
But the fact that he wasn't scared to go after the trannies twice.
He got attacked by one or one of their supporters even.
Well, they are pretty violent. I mean, what was that? There was a shooting in Canada.
Yeah. Well, per demographic right now, that since we're on the topic, transgenders are the most violent as far as when it comes to shootings. Likely to carry out a display of a kind of let's say a mass shooting is second is Asian actually.
What?
Really? Yeah.
Oh, I'm surprised about that.
I know, but they have
honest.
a lot.
Wow.
But see, I'm going the old school way of my daughter, my stepdaughter, but she's really my daughter. This little girl is my angel. But I'm going the Chinese route in life now, where I'm picking for her. One, I said if she ever dates a liberal, that I'll cut her off financially. Not out of love, but I'll cut her off financially.
Well, it is out of love.
It is out of love.
Because you love her so much, you don't want her to make a bad decision.
Oh, no, this girl. But it's crazy because, like we talked about with propaganda and Leonardo DiCaprio's last movie, is they're teaching propaganda in the Philippines in regards to what's politics that are happening in America. Like, I have to explain to her Charlie Kirk now in the Philippines. I have to explain to her how, what's going on certain politics or policies, in immigration. I had to explain ICE to her. And I'm like, hey, shouldn't your school, who we pay for, she goes to a private school. She goes to one of the top schools in the Philippines, God willing. But, shouldn't you guys be worried about your own government? That's why I tell you, because, there's a lot of corruption in the Philippines. They even, shoot presidents, right? They even assassinate presidents, we've seen on video. But I'm like, shouldn't your school, focus on Philippine politics? Like, don't worry about America. And that's, I mean, even to this day, I have to, even though my daughter's, 13,000 miles or however miles away in the Philippines, that I have to, defend, what, I would say true Americans are trying to do to save this country, to her living in a third world, right? It's wild.
Yeah, I think about that too. I don't know if there was this news, was it earlier this year, last year, where people in Mexico were protesting the Americans that were living there.
I saw that.
Get out of my country.
Gringos.
It's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like if you're in Mexico, why don't you want to make Mexico great again?
Yeah.
If you're in El Salvador, make El Salvador great again. If you're in Puerto Rico... who cares about them? Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But you saw Venezuelans like even this last thing
with Nicolas Maduro,
where we're literally in this middle ground where I'm sitting there seeing Venezuelans celebrating, happy, where they have opportunity now, right? And then you see
Trump takes out an actual fascist,
an actual one.
Yeah, you would think the people on the left would be excited, like, oh, wow, Trump took out, incarcerated or stole.
But you know what? It's kind of like what Malcolm X said, right? Malcolm X warned us against the white liberal, right? Where, like, they're taking on battles for people. Like, I had a viral comment on a Instagram post recently that I was bored, so I commented on it. I got up to, like, 1,800 likes. I was like, wow, that's my most viral one, right? Wow,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. And but it was one of those things where man, I lost my train of thought now. What were you saying before?
Nicolas Maduro.
Fascist. Yeah, fascist. So I said, where we see people that are clearly, happy, right? Happy that this thing happened. And then now we're seeing, people in America now fighting against, citizens of that country, feeling liberated, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness, man. Like what world are we living in?
It's wild.
It's
wild. Going back to Trump's accomplishments, I got to run through this list, or else we'll never get done.
You know what? We're fine. I told you gotta have a longer podcast because people love hearing your voice, and it's like they say, no podcast is too long anymore. You don't limit yourself. And I say this because I did marketing for 10 years before I got into the post office and doing more of like laborious jobs. I marketed some of the biggest skateboard companies and streetwear companies, in the world even. And it's one of those things where like, any advice I've ever given you is because, I saw potential in this thing,
Well, I appreciate those words. Let's see. Trump ended DEI at the federal level. We already touched on that. That's good. And I had a podcast episode about that. Let's see. There are now only two genders. There's only two now.
The way the good Lord intended.
There used to be infinity.
And
then thanks to Trump.
You said it recently was what was it? It was a character, a
non-binary, two-spirited
animal.
Two-spirited AAI or
two-spirited something.
Two-spirited something.
Yeah. My wife has 3 first names, and I only fell in love with one of them. Maybe that's what he meant by two-spirited animals, where, like, I love Cassandra. I'm scared as shit of Ampy, right? Because she's, like, the more, like, prudent one. And then Princess is, like, she's, like, she married me for a green card, I think, potentially.
So you're married to 3 women?
I'm married to 3 women.
That's insane.
I know.
It sounds tough. Not for me, but hey. Gas prices are down. You mentioned that earlier.
Gas prices.
Except in California, of course, because, Gavin Newsom wants us to pay a little bit more.
It's one of those things, like, let's try something different, man. And that's what I mean. Like, I remember gas being, when I first started driving, was 2002. I had a little Jeep in high school. I thought it was Freddie Prinze from She's All That, right? And I remember gas being $1.47 for that Jeep, and I'd run through like 3 tanks in a week, right?
I remember when gas was at the $1 mark when I was young.
$1.47.
When I started driving, it just passed $3. And back then I thought, man, this sucks. Right when I learned to drive, it passes $3. Yeah. But here we are. It's like average of $5.
Yeah. But it's down. I use Techron, though.
Techron?
I feel like that's the Republican thing to do. Is like, you no matter what, put good gas in your truck, because so I still do tech runs. So I'm paying about $4.20 something.
That's not bad.
Not bad, but when you see the hood gas station spots, and they're like $3.80, it's tempting. It's tempting.
But you also want to survive to drive your car.
I'm thinking long term. Now I might have I always say this joke. I have liberal credit that I'm fixing. My credit score is liberal. Yeah, right. Okay, but
you want to drive home at the end of the day.
Yeah, everything else is pretty right.
Last thing. Oh, two more things. No more paper straws.
No more paper straws. That turtle. You know what's funny? I saw that turtle like 2 days ago on YouTube. I have a lot of animals on my YouTube channel. Yeah. I saw them pulling out the straw of the turtle. It was heartfelt. It was hard, but you know what? I get over that heartfeltness when that straw breaks, or it gets soggy in my soda. I forget about the turtle and I worry about myself.
See, the thing that they don't tell you is that straw, it came from India. Mm-hmm. Come on, they're the biggest polluters. Them in China.
Yeah.
We're over here being very careful with our trash.
Yeah.
But we still get the blame for whatever reason.
We're still destroying the world.
We're destroying the world.
Yeah.
We take the blame.
Yeah.
But we all know it's China and India. And the last thing, 687,000 jobs were added to this country because of Trump.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So we just went over a bunch of accomplishments. Yep. Why is he hated so much?
Because he's white. It's really easy.
I thought he was orange. They call him the big orange man.
Yeah. No, it's because he's white, man. I mean, it's so crazy where yeah, man. I don't know. I'm clinging on to my whiteness right now. I hold on to that quarter. The Jewish part and the German part of me, I hold on to it real strong. Yeah, it's just wild to think how prejudiced people are, towards that group of people in America, and again, I have to.
Okay, riddle me this. You're saying he's hated because he's white.
Yeah,
but why did everyone love Joe Biden though?
Oh gosh,
he's white too.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing is so he's white, and he said some racist stuff.
Oh, he did.
He fought for segregation of buses, and all those things, right?
He said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
The crack laws, right? The laws in the 90s.
He said they're going to put you back in chains.
They're going to put you back in chains.
Remember that?
Isn't that wild? We're I just feel like, certain people of color and Biden, it's like certain people of color and Biden, right? Elizabeth Warren's in that group too, but they could say anything they want. And I sit here and I say, what could be controversial? I don't even know, but I say a lot probably. But it's like I say one little thing, and I'm deemed like the most evilest person on earth.
Worse than Hitler.
Worse than Hitler.
There's nothing worse than Hitler except when you open your mouth, Corey.
Yeah,
no, I'm just
100%. I'm toxic.
All right. I want to move over to immigration just for a little bit. Yes. I know we touched on a lot, but there's this image that I saw. Where did I see it? It was on X or something. But, they say pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Uh-huh.
But I'm going to show it to you.
Okay.
It's about the number of deportations
that
some of these past presidents in our lifetime have done. So it says... is a picture of Bill Clinton. 12.5 million deportations.
I didn't think he got that much done for us.
I know.
On that end.
That's true. Because, everyone just thinks of him as sleeping with Monica Lewinsky,
Well, now in jacuzzis. He's now in jacuzzis with blacked out faces, right? Wasn't his wife. But I'm glad he,
Wait, it was redacted. It was redacted.
But unlike Mamdani, I'm glad he, did his oath on a Bible.
That's true. That's one up on Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
All right, now that you mentioned that, Bill Clinton wasn't so bad.
He wasn't so bad, dude.
Let's see, and then it says 0 protests or riots under good old Bill.
Good old Bill.
We move over to George Washington, George W. Bush. Mm-hmm. 10.3 million deportations.
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit less than Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
0 protests and riots. All right, okay.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, Shit. He didn't. He couldn't finish it either.
You can't fool me the first time.
Yeah, you can't fool me. You know what I mean?
Let's see.
Obama.
The golden goose.
The golden goose
of the United States.
You know, I actually, because I kept hearing this whole time, like, oh, Obama did it differently. So I went to immigration lawyers' blogs.
Yeah.
Right? Like, probably about like 12 of them. And I would read how Mexican families were terrorized during the Obama administration, just to prove my point to people that, one, there's no easy way to do immigration, right? And then secondly, or enforce immigration laws. And then secondly, I said, but he did. He did.
According to this, 5.2 million deportations.
That's a lot of people.
0 protests, 0 riots about his deportations.
Yeah.
But then...
My boy.
We go over to your bro.
My bro.
Your fam.
That's my fam, dude.
Hey, closer than your Tío Pancho.
Closer. Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Yep.
Only 1.5 million deportations.
Yeah.
350 protests.
350 protests.
/ riots.
Yeah.
What's going on? I brought this up to certain people where I'm like, look, all the presidents prior to Trump deported.
Yeah.
How come you didn't care about it back then?
Didn't care.
They didn't care about it. Why?
You know what? I'm mind blown by that statistic. Just in general, right? Mostly because and I ask people. I say, because correct me if I'm wrong, but there was 0 ICE raids in Trump's first term. That was one big thing that they talked about, was 0 ICE raids in Trump's first term. So I told people, I said, let me ask you a quick question. I said, so if there was 0 ICE raids in his first term, right? Then there was a stolen election, which evidence is coming out, right, that it was an actual stolen election, and then 10 plus million people got let into the country. Like I said, we saw a forklift lift up a barbed wire fence, right? And then now we're seeing ICE raids, right? So if those 10 million people and that stolen election didn't happen, right, would we be seeing ICE raids today? And I ask you that, right? And the reason why I ask you that.
That's a good point. And no, I'm glad you bring that up, because that's what I tell people.
Mm-hmm.
And you make a perfect point. Is I try to tell people the reason why all these ICE raids is because for 4 years under Biden, it was wide open. The border was wide open for anyone to come over.
Wide open, right? But also too, what people don't understand is that we have to realize what enforcing immigration law does, right? That kills a party. That is going to make it so hard for us in 2028. Harder. But I think a lot of people are coming around. You see Latin communities speak out against illegal immigration as well. But that doesn't get publicized, right? That doesn't make the news. But you do see, people like Tío Pancho, who talks about, people bringing their culture from their country, their third world country, or, like Trump says, their shithole country, right? Bringing it over to, let's say, LA or any, sanctuary city or state. And it does, in fact, change things, right? So I look at it as something
similar to the, the Somalis in Michigan.
Yeah.
You heard about that?
Oh, 100%.
They all come there. They start their leering centers.
Yes, the leerings.
What do you think they're leering in there? I don't know.
They're learning how to freaking keep this fraud keep going, because apparently they're all in it on together, right?
And there's evidence that they're sending money back to like federal money back to Al-Shabaab or whatever, to Somalia.
Yeah,
and Somalia, they don't even have a proper government.
No.
So,
and that goes back to my point of, like, we're bringing in the worst of the worst from third world countries, and again, not everyone is blessed to be an American, right? It is a blessing to be an American, but also too, everyone has their own life that God has planned for them, right? And instead of fleeing countries, sometimes might have to look deep within and actually try to change their country, right? Like what's so wrong about Trump wanting to fight the cartel? But then we see the Mexican president literally say that it's not constitutional to fight the cartel. Like what? Like what does that even mean? You know what I mean?
And then Trump showed her when he blew up those boats.
Blow them up.
That was pretty crazy.
I'm a fisherman, and let me tell you, those aren't fishing boats, right? Each one of those motors is like $15,000. They have 4 of them on there.
Wow.
Right? And I don't see a fishing pole in sight. You know?
Yeah, to me, it's like, wow, Trump is protecting his country, our country.
Yeah.
But then the liberal left, far left people, they're like, oh, why would you do that? There was a guy swimming, and then they ordered for them to drop more bombs on him while he was still alive. And I'm like, wait.
I didn't even see that.
No, there was something in the news.
Yeah,
Someone made a
I'm
big
sure.
deal about they threw a bomb. There was people out in the water, like treading for life.
Okay.
And then there was another strike on them. And it's
Okay.
like, oh, that was immoral.
Yeah.
Wait, what about the first strike? Like,
Yeah.
we're just making it easier for them to not have to suffer.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking that exact same thing. If I was treading water in the ocean, where there's, I have fear of the ocean, even though I fish, but I want something just to take me out real quick, not drown or anything like that. But it is one of those things where we have to protect our land. And we are in an invasion right now. We're from an Islam invasion and we see it. I mean, they literally aren't even hiding it. They literally will say on camera, what their intent is, and they're trying to bring Sharia law to our country.
Ah, man, I think I just gagged in my mouth.
We're the liberals for that. That's the one thing I respect Bill Maher for.
Oh yeah, Bill Maher.
Is that
he's an atheist?
He's an atheist.
And I think we agree. I actually like some of the things that he says.
Yeah.
Because yes, he's on the left. He's liberal.
Yeah.
But he has common sense at least.
He has common sense. He has common sense, dude. And that's where, we lost the liberal party when they stopped fighting for women's rights, right? They literally are taking women's rights away.
Like real women.
Like real women, reproductive women, right? And
what do they call them now?
Cis women.
They call them. They call them that too.
Cis.
But there's a new one. It's called
birthing
people.
Childbearing or birthing people.
Birthing people.
Birthing people.
And there was another one that's much more new. I wish I could remember, but it was similar to the lines of birthing people.
Yeah.
They're trying. They used to protect birthing people.
Man, isn't that amazing? It's sad where and that's why I tell people, I say, you know what? We need God. We need God in this battle, and we're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of people from every walk of life, every color of skin. People are coming around, man. I think our country is changing. We'll always have victim-minded people. We'll always have people that are going to take advantage of welfare and so forth and so on. But those people some of them are actually getting tired of that life, and realizing that if you put, your back into it and you work hard and you show up every single day and you have integrity, that you could get really far in life, man. You could get really, really far in life.
Very well said. I was going to ask you about your experience with immigration, which I think you already did. You talked about your lovely better half.
Oh, she's my better half, man. I love that woman.
Yeah, my wife is my better half. She teaches me a lot of things.
Yeah.
And having a wife, I think, teaches a man how to be a better man.
100%.
Because one, you have to acknowledge you're not a woman.
Yeah.
She's a woman.
Yeah.
You can't treat her the same way you would a man.
And I just thought recently too, it's like, I hate this term partner. Right? I never call my wife my partner.
I make fun of when people say that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, my partner this. I'm like, oh, is part of your law firm?
Yeah,
because a lawyer of yours?
And exactly what you said, right? So if you look at most businesses that have partnerships that actually fail, it's mostly because that one of the partners isn't living up to their end of the bargain. Right. So, I look at my marriage. One, we pray every night that we do our best to keep God at the center of it, right? But the secondly is, she's my best friend. She's my teammate. Am I freaking an outstanding player every single day? No. So there's days where I get my butt kicked at work, right? And then are there days where she's, like any other woman, emotional, stressed out, all these things, 100%. And I have to try to do my best to calm that down or cheer her up or so forth. But yeah, this whole partnership thing is funny to me because, you call yourself partners all you want, but I'm going to contribute that to the failing divorce rate that is currently in America, So, and that's kind of like, back to immigration. I plead to people, don't worry about immigration if your family life is falling apart. I just lost a friend recently, not like by death, but by politics, right? And she posted some stupid thing, and I said, I find it funny when people try to make political statements when their marriage is failing, their kids are acting a fool, right, or not doing well in school or anything like that, and their personal well-being, their mental health is collapsing, right? It's like, don't worry about politics yet, because it will eat you alive. Like I said, I took a break from podcasts only because it was so tough.
It's kind of like, it's the same thing what Jordan Peterson says. He says, "Why are you trying to change the world when your home life is also out of order? Yeah. You should focus on your personal self first, your home, the people closest to you, and then worry about the world."
And that's what you said, is people closest to you, right? So my mom, she would never be seen or even want to touch the hat I'm wearing right now, right? The beautiful camouflage "Make America Great Again" hat. And
oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The way the light hits it, just right.
I know. I wish
man.
You're doing video already. So that's, I was like, man, I'd look really good in this video. But what's funny is that she would never wear this hat. And up until most recently, I actually have a picture of her wearing the hat, and because I told her, and it was constant. And so I said, focus on your family, focus on your core, and if you can't change your mom's mind of why she should, vote a certain way, maybe it's just this time around, right? Maybe it's and so forth and so on. Maybe she is a true liberal where she could go from left to right and just choose the best candidate, right? But I kept not beating on her, but I kept, just instilling her what I believe the new conservative man is, right? Because before, especially people of color, they think the conservative man is the evil white man, right? But I tell people, I said, the new conservative man is a man that tries their best to walk with God, knowing that they're going to fail every day, but they get up the next day and they try all over again. Right. I would hope, and to make it easier, like I said, read that proverb a day on the chapter. And then secondly is a good man will always do everything possible to provide and protect their family. Right. So those simple things is what I believe a conservative man is. Those are the simple things I thought Charlie Kirk really promoted and wanted for people. Right. He spread the most love out of everyone when he wanted people to succeed and not hold themselves back by their color or by their gender or anything like that. And so yeah, I got her in a hat, and she's not gonna wear it in public, but she now truly grasps the why I'm so passionate about what I am passionate about.
I like what you brought up about the new conservative man. I talked to a buddy of mine who's more on the left, and in his view, a conservative is synonymous with the
Christian nationalism,
like super right wing, probably Christian nationalism, and someone akin to a KKK member. They want to conserve. Oh, America's for whites only, and that kind of thing. But it's like no. Conservatism to to the modern age,
Yeah.
it's really simple.
Yeah.
It's a man who wants to have a wife
Yeah.
and raise their kids
Yeah.
and not have their kids be exposed to all this gender identity stuff. No,
Yeah.
you're a boy because you're a boy, obviously.
Yeah. Yep.
There's no such thing as sex assigned at birth.
Yeah.
Like, no one assigned you a sex. You were just born that way. If anyone, God assigned you whatever sex you were. Your boys are boys, your girls are girls. A man will work hard to provide for his family.
Yeah.
That's like the basic thing about conservatism is the family unit. And obviously leftism wants to destroy that. They want to separate the parents from the kids.
From a biblical standpoint, they want us to live in Romans times, right? Where it's a free for all. It's a brothel, basically, right? And that's where and I was asked by one of our old coworkers at the post office one time, is like, oh, and he tried to stump me every single time, and he's like, oh, well, what do you think about church and state? And so, the way most of my arguments or debates work was I just ask questions back, right, to see where we are.
My thing about church and state is it's not in the Constitution.
No.
From what I heard, I think it was Thomas Jefferson wrote that down somewhere in, like, I don't know, in one of his writings.
Yeah.
And then that's where they took it from. From one, I think it was Thomas Jefferson. Correct me in the comments, but it's not in the Constitution.
No,
the idea of separation of church and state.
Yeah.
If anything, God kind of is at the center of forming the United States.
Exactly. And the thing that I tell people is like, I said, our old coworker, I said, well, first you have to ask yourself, why are you asking me the question about church and state in 2025? This was last year. And then secondly, is, what does church and state even mean? Well, church and state was originally, brought forth so that, the Pope, or, especially with like England and UK, people that rule the church, they can't get involved into state affairs. Right. And why it's being brought up in 2025 like it did last year. I said, don't you find it odd that when we made it optional, or even let's just say took out the Pledge of Allegiance, right, because it said, one nation under God. It's why was some people's arguments of why it should not be in schools. No one made a fuss. No one tore down cities. No one, went to the school board and said anything really. It was nothing, big media wise. But now, why people are fighting for the teachings of the 10 Commandments in schools, right? The Pledge of Allegiance, right? And so forth and so on, is because we are directly battling them bringing gender ideology and sexual preference into elementary schools. And regardless if that is one school out of the whole country, and media is just pushing that one school that it happened at, or, 5 parents holding books that, talk about little Jimmy touching little Timmy's, thing. But it's that's why it's being brought up now, and that's why you have people even like myself that are fighting for, the 10 Commandments aren't bad. I mean, they're pretty basic moral compass of life, right? And the Pledge of Allegiance is something that we did growing up, and we're pledging the allegiance to our flag, to our country. And nowadays, like we see in these recent riots, people are obviously, even though they came from another country, a lot of them are born in Kaiser Permanente in Torrance or in LA somewhere. They're not born in Mexico, but they think they have such close ties to Mexico. We're seeing people pledge allegiance to their gender, not gender, but their genetic background and on where their family was born, And so, yeah, I'm all for it. Hey, man. I'd rather have God than Muhammad in our classrooms. I'd rather have God than a drag queen teaching my kid how to read a book. So by all means, understand that this is the repercussions of your actions, bud.
True. Yeah, I think for me, what it was is when I started having kids, I thought, what kind of world do I want my kids to grow up in?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, there was no a drag queen story hour.
No.
There was no, the library at school has all these books on how to have gay sex.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is so weird.
It's like back to what we talked about. I miss like what Dave Chappelle said. I miss the old gays. You know what I mean? I miss the old ones, the glory hole gays. You know what I mean? They do what they do, and because I went to Disneyland, it was funny because everyone thought I'd wear my MAGA hat at Disneyland because I actually went for Pride Night. Out of all nights,
oh man,
I had in-laws though from East Coast, and my wife hasn't seen her sister in 7 years because obviously she couldn't fly.
So yeah, I'm sure your family members were like, "Wait, you're going to wear your Make America Great Again hat?
You know what?
Make sure you put on your bulletproof vest."
Exactly, and that's where again back to just being a decent human being. Obviously, I wouldn't wear that, right? I wouldn't, and I didn't. My mom bought me this really cool Mickey Mouse Hawaiian Tommy Bahama shirt. I was
cool.
like, wow, that's really cool. I learned how much it was. I was like, man, Mom, like you really didn't have to, but I guess she just didn't want me to wear my MAGA stuff there. But what was strange was that, I felt, like it would be wrong for me to wear this at their event. Right. But at the same time, I'm there with my little niece who's 4 years old. And there were men wearing shorts that showed their ass crack.
Really?
The bottom crack, that we all love at the gym. Sometimes we don't, we can look once, but we can't look twice. And
true.
Yeah. And but it's weird how, that's acceptable. Scary.
Yeah, the thing is, the concept there is men and women are equal, as in identical.
Yeah. No.
And us who live in reality, we're like, no, men and women are different.
Yeah.
There's like thousands of differences between men and women.
Yeah.
But, they want to go like the gender fluidity thing, like, oh no, men and women, they're interchangeable. It's all the same.
Yeah. But
a man marrying a woman is the same as a man marrying a man, or a woman marrying a woman. It's like, no, it's not, because there's only one combination of those three that you can come up with where children can be produced. There's only one.
Yeah.
There's only one combination where children can be produced, and that's the one that matters to me.
Yeah.
All the other ones are like, you're kind of pretending.
You are.
You're kind of pretending to be what the man and woman couple are.
And then it's just to see like the how bad they are mentally. I mean, these people are really unhappy. And like I said, the love I share for people is I want everyone to be as happy as I am, where like, you could live with your truth. I've for the past, 2 years, I try my best and I've been doing a good job of even if it hurts. I had a coach in high school that we had on a slogan on our back that said, "The truth hurts," right? But even if it hurts, I can't lie to you. I can't lie, and I want everyone to live their truth, and unfortunately, you can't just switch genders like that. You can't just, think it and believe it, and it comes true.
Yeah, what I've been thinking about lately is that it's kind of fantasy thinking to think, oh, I can be. Pick your poison.
Yeah.
And like I could switch my gender and I can be a woman.
Yeah.
If I put on this wig and lipstick and people will accept me. And it's like,
you're
battling a lot of things mentally already.
100%.
Like, yes, you should love yourself, but the only way you can love yourself is to know that you were created by a creator with a purpose who loves you. Who gave his son to die on the cross for you, not for you to do this to yourself, but love yourself as you are, and then work on those virtues in life that will make you happy. Be a loving person to other people, be kind, be help those in need. The golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. then you'll be happy. But if you keep chasing this weird idea that people need to love your sexual identity as the most important thing about you, you're not going to be happy, because as soon as you come across someone who thinks differently than you, then you're going to feel like, oh, they're oppressing me. Oh, they don't want me to exist. Like, no. We love you, but there's a better way to live your life.
I mean, God warns us about being self-righteous. He warns us about being entitled, and there's nothing more entitled than to think you could just be anything you want from a gender perspective, right? So, at the end of the day, whatever you want to do at home, feel free and do it, man. By all means. But when it comes to being in public spaces, we have to go back to the time, and again, when we got rid of bullies and we, allowed people to sue for, punching someone in the face for saying something stupid about your wife or your kid or anything like that. We gave so much entitlement and self-righteousness to people that in reality have abused it for, since Obama in reality, and it's again, I hope we take, America back. I think we are in a lot of ways, and it's a good fight to fight, man. It's an honorable fight to fight. I tell people all the time, I said, you should thank people like me that went against the grain, that look the way I look and can see what, where things are and vote a certain way, because, where the country was headed, look at California. There's one of the AB laws or proposals, where it made, children to be able to be taking custody of children with very little documentation, not even a birth certificate, right? It could be a made up note like they do at the border when they send kids and they have a note saying, oh, send him to Juan in Wisconsin and here's the phone number. They would literally send kids by themselves like that. So, we're seeing that and we got to combat it, man. And it, like I said, immigration is a thorn in any political race. It's going to hurt us a little bit, but I have hope that Americans are going to like where, like the success of America, like we saw in this past year, and it's only going to keep getting better for us. And they see that success and say, hey, you know what? I'd rather be successful than be a woman. And, as if you were a man, let's just say,
I have hope that Gen Z is a little more based.
Yeah.
Because I think we're millennials, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hear some podcasters say millennials were like the gayest generation that ever existed. And I think they also had a lot of issues, like, they grew up in divorced homes.
Yep.
And then a lot of them said, oh, I don't want kids.
Yeah.
But I think the few that do have kids and see the value of having kids want to raise their kids the right way.
Yeah.
I think Generation Z kind of sees that like, oh, I'm a child of divorce and I don't like what I came from through my parents.
Yeah.
They were very secular.
Yeah.
So let me try looking to see what this whole God thing is, and Jesus and religion, and I have a hope that the generation after us, and the study showed, the poll showed that there is a shift of people going back to church, and I do think.
And when did that shift happen?
Charlie Kirk,
man, and it goes. I never cried when Prince died or Michael Jackson or Robin Williams. Never cried for anyone I didn't know that. And I've lost two dads, not gay, but my dad and my stepfather. I've lost my grandfather recently, who I saw.
Sorry to hear that.
It's okay. You know what? He manned up. I saw him go through hospice. He had stage 4 lung cancer. Never smoked a day in his life, but got stage 4 lung cancer.
Wow.
Towards the end of his life, and he fought he not fought, but he accepted death, and he didn't complain one bit. He never, and he really looked death in the eye as a man and took it and went on in life. But I see, millennials, man. Millennials really did, do some things and I was one of them. Like I said, I have liberal credit. My credit score is pretty low. I'm trying to fix it.
Liberal credit.
Yeah. But looking at what being a conservative has done in my life, I mean, I'm an amazing husband. I'll say that standing proudly. I'm an amazing husband, an amazing stepfather who I get told a lot saying, hey, it's not the same. It's not the same. I said, well, you go make a teenage girl to call you dad when she doesn't have to. Have a teenage girl say, I love you every single day, and said, and ask me for lunch money. And I almost started learning algebra to learn it because I couldn't afford at the time to get her a tutor. So I was learning algebra all over again just for her, but I'll say this, man, when you give your life to God and unfortunately nowadays politics does follow your religion, it does follow your beliefs. And if you align your politics with your religion, then America's going to make a strong comeback.
Very well said. And I believe all of that. We're going to bring this podcast to a close, but before we do, I just have one final question.
All right.
And I'm really curious about this one. I think it might spark a debate.
Okay.
But it's something that's been on my mind. So, unless, they pass a new bill into law, this term that Trump is serving is going to be his last. Now, of course, everyone jokes, or he jokes that, I'm going to run a third term,
I'd vote for him.
I'd vote for him too. I don't think it's going to happen.
No,
I think he's just being silly.
Yeah.
But we know all things come to an end.
Yeah.
I think just like how you were talking about death, I think that's what separates us from the animals.
Mm-hmm.
We know that our time is limited. We know we're going to die.
Yeah.
And so that should make us prudent, to use a word that you used earlier, which I really like that word. And to think about it, to ponder about it. Of course, we see in the New Testament, I can't remember if it was one of the apostles, but he says, "Death, where is your sting?" Mm-hmm. Like, death doesn't scare me because I know where my foundation is. Yeah. It's on Jesus. Just like Jesus said, build your life on solid ground. He is the rock. Jesus is the rock. So if you build your life on something solid, you're going to stand. There's nothing that when the storms of life come, you're not going to be afraid. So we know death is imminent.
Yeah.
That's why the Catholics do Ash Wednesday, which is coming up.
Okay.
I'm not a Catholic, but I do respect the Catholics. Yeah. I have been hearing more Catholic voices in my podcast.
They give a valiant effort. You know what I'm saying?
I used to kind of, give them the old side eye, but now I'm like a little more open. I'm like, okay, I'll hear you out. I'll hear what you have to say. Yeah. There are some good things that you have to say. So sorry I was harsh on you growing up.
I think Catholicism kind of ruined Candace Owens a bit, but
I used to like her, believe it or not.
I used to like her.
She went a little crazy though.
She really did. I don't get into conspiracy theories.
I try to stay away from them.
Yeah,
they are interesting sometimes.
Real quick, I want to say this for all the people that are listening to the Candace Owens of the world or whoever you want to listen to for conspiracy theories, especially when it comes to Charlie Kirk, right? And that's something I hold dearly because I listen to Charlie Kirk's message a lot, just to kind of like hear him again, you know what I mean, and to hear what he fought for and preached about, especially when it comes to being a father and being a husband. But don't let the conspiracy theories of who killed Charlie Kirk get in between you and the wisdom that Charlie Kirk tried sharing, that he learned, that he put the time in, right? A lot of people are so caught up in who killed Charlie, they're not even living out what Charlie fought for.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what saddens me.
That's a good point. Because, he did have a lot of good messages. Yeah. He was articulate. He made great points, great arguments.
Yeah.
He was a respectful guy.
Yeah.
That's one thing that the world could learn from him is how to talk to someone in a respectful manner.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was saying, we know we're going to die. Mm-hmm. We know Trump, this term is going to end one day.
It's going to end.
It's going to be a dark day when that happens.
Yeah. We're going to storm the Capitol again. I'll be there this time.
We're going to storm the Capitol. Oh, man. So here's a final question. I might make another question after that.
Yeah.
Should MAGA continue after Trump? Now, the reason why I asked that question is because we know.
I have a hat on.
No, because I love the hat. I'm sad to say I'm not as brave as you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like MAGA. I like the hat. I like seeing people wear the hats.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I don't know. I'm not brave enough to sport one. I don't know. Maybe one day. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So should MAGA continue after Trump? His term's going to end. Mm. And we all know that Trump was the originator of this whole MAGA movement. Yeah. Now, when his term ends, does MAGA continue? Should it continue?
I think MAGA was an extreme. I will admit that. I think MAGA was an extreme to defend against the other extreme that we saw on the left that was coming about. So, and that's from a philosophical standpoint, but I think MAGA from a literal standpoint, you could get deeper into, all these different, you could say MAGA's a cult, and you could say, the alphabet people are a cult, right? But you know what? This cult I actually liked. They were really nice to me. I went to, I went to Charlie Kirk's Memorial Drive when we did there was like 1,000 trucks driving down PCH in Malibu, and we all had our flags up and everything, and so yeah. But I think that it's going to go more on the literal end of like what it really means to be how to make America great again, and I do support strongly JD Vance. And, he's defended MAGA in the sense of the literal sense of making America great again, right? And not the left's description of it being a KKK, but literally the literal the definition of make America great again. But JD does it in a way where it can be comprehended, right? So is it going to continue? I hope so. I hope that we always put America first. I hope we always try our best to look out for a fellow American as well. But to the extreme, I think that depends on the left. In all honesty, if they want to keep,
that's a good point.
If they want to keep attacking just for opinion, they've been fighting our First Amendment rights since before Trump.
That's true,
right? So if Joe Rogan got canceled, Trump got canceled from Twitter. How many people lost their jobs for wearing the hat I'm wearing now, right? So I hope that it doesn't have to keep going on like this, and I hope that we do come together in a sense that we look at, instead of helping people live a better life from another country and bringing them over here, that we look at how to make every American's life better, right? So I hope it doesn't end. I hope it keeps going. Can it be toned down? 100%, right? I don't agree with Trump on everything he says, but at the same time, there's a lot of things like the other hat that I didn't buy, but there's a lot of things that he was right about. Right. And we're seeing that to this day, that we're seeing things that they can't even answer for, that they're still trying to cover up. Right. And it's like, so MAGA will continue to thrive as long as the left keeps persecuting people that have a different opinion than theirs, that don't buy into their cult-like mentality of, America should be socialist, communist, America should not have a border, men could go into women's restrooms and so forth and so on. So, again, make America great again to me is also, that American dream. I'm about to start a TikTok page. I never thought I would at 40, but it's called Our Little Hoodstead. It's kind of like a homestead, right? But ooh. I said Hoodstead because, one, I'm a marketer by nature, but Hoodstead because, it's like the question you asked me before of what I consider moving to another state. And we see I guarantee right now, you go to your Instagram, you'll see at least 5 friends that have a post saying, I want a ranch, I want a farm, I want all these things. But the whole idea about our little hoodstead is you don't need to move to do that. You can, if you don't have a home, like I was blessed with, because my father left me an inheritance like God taught him. But if there's community gardens, but I think the worst case scenario for America would be survival of the fittest. And I'll tell you this right now, what I'm doing at my home, I'm learning how to grow every vegetable. Last year during the summer, I grew every vegetable we ate. And this year I hope to be able to feed Pancho, his family, my extended family. Because even at the same time, back to immigration, I don't want some 12-year-old or 9-year-old picking my crops. It's so funny how, in the weaponization of illegal immigration, we've allowed and we're okay with people working like slaves. It's kind of funny, though, the same people pushing weaponization of illegal immigration is also the same people that fought to have slaves, right?
Good point. Which reminds me, remember when there was like an ICE raid at like a marijuana farm?
Marijuana farm, yeah.
And then there was minors working.
Picking weed.
Yeah.
Picking weed. And not one thing was said about that. Isn't that crazy? Like, you're okay with, it's kind of like voter ID. You're okay with, them checking my ID at a cannabis clinic, at the airport, at a bar in Hermosa Beach, but you're perfectly fine with anybody voting to who runs this country. And like I said, I'm focused, to end it on that is I'm focused on the local level, man. I'm really pushing Chad Bianco. I even messaged Chad Bianco about 6 times. So if he does hear this, please reach out to me. I will wrap my truck in your campaign because more people in LA need to learn about him, need to know about him. But it is a fight, man. And California is a great state to live in. I love the weather. I love the people for the most part, on south of the 105 freeway for the most part. And but it's one of those things where I have hopes, and all we can do is pray, brother. All we can do is pray, man. We could pray that God reaches all these lives, and he truly is, fighting that battle of what people say, that spiritual warfare that's going on right now. God is with us, man. God is with us. Charlie was taken from us a little too early. But that was in God's plan, man. If I knew that death was appointed, like my wife taught me, I wouldn't have suffered through 10 years of depression after my dad died, right? Where I blamed God for him leaving too early and so forth. And now I went running back in the worst part of my life when I was about to lose my house, my family, my wife, my kid, and everything like that. I literally got locked in a room for like 5 days. They would order me food, and all I had was a Bible. And like I said, I saw evil at its worst, and people don't know how close they are to being influenced to go that route. The devil's working every single day to get us. It's like what Mike Tyson said, it's like, God blesses you, but the devil can bless you as well, brother. So, keep on the good fight. Thank you for having me on, man. And I truly am, you'll see me with my American flag on my truck. I'm actually putting the Christian flag on my truck. So I'll have the American flag and the Christian flag on my truck, driving the South Bay. I do worry that I'm going to get keyed, but, God's doing amazing things in my financial life where he put me in the right position to better provide, and all I gotta do is just work hard, stay in His Word, and keep moving forward.
Man, I couldn't have said anything better than that. That was beautiful. Even if your truck does get keyed, because you're having the American flag and the Christian flag. Yeah. You know how many people would be encouraged to see that? Wow.
I love it, dude.
There is.
You have no idea how much I love this country.
There are Christians out there that love their country. And love their faith in Jesus, which is awesome. You know what? I'm not going to say anything else. That's a perfect spot, a perfect way to end the episode. Yes, the only thing I got to say is Come on, Tio Pancho. You've been living here. Become a U.S. citizen.
That's what I'm telling
Come
him,
on,
dude.
Tio
I'm telling you,
Pancho.
he is my best friend. I've lost about 8. I've lost about 8 real friends and 14 Instagram friends, actual friends that I knew that we just didn't talk, but we at least stayed in contact through Instagram. Lost them all, and but Pancho's that one person in my life that he's been there my whole life. And, I love that man, but I'm going to get him his citizenship like I got my wife. And I'm actually about to get petition my daughter. So, I almost became a reserve. Remember, I almost joined the reserve.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
I almost joined the reserve to get my wife citizenship. That was like the one question. I just sorry to bring it up, but that was the one question that I hated hearing from liberals was when they tried to approach me with this talk on immigration. They said, "Oh, what if your wife would have got deported?" Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? We thought about Plan B. We thought about Plan C. We thought about Plan D. My wife would live like a queen, not have to work in the Philippines because I would take care of her. And then secondly, if I had to, I'd sell my house and I'd retire at 42 years old. Wow. How good would that be? Or 40 years old. How nice would it be to retire at 40, right?
That's real love there.
That's real love. So, but, it's one of those things where God, family, country, man. God, family, country. I tell people, keep life simple and stick to those 3 things and you'll be fine, man.
That's true. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but at the end of the day, why overburden yourself with so many things that's going to stress you out and wear you down? What'd you say? God,
family, country.
God, family, country.
In that order, like Charlie said.
Love God. With all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your wife as Christ loved the church.
Exactly.
As we read in 1 Corinthians.
Too many cheaters out there.
Too many cheaters. Love your kids because they are a part of you. And every child deserves their mom and dad.
Yes.
And love your country because this is your home.
This is our home.
The same way you want to protect your home, you would want your country to protect its people.
Yes, sir.
Well, Corey, thank you so much for being on Faith and Politics podcast on this.
It's been a pleasure.
On this bonus episode. You're the second guest I've had on this podcast. And I'm trying to do different things on this podcast. Maybe I'll have more guests on more frequently. But I think Corey hinted at it. Listeners, I'm going to try to take this podcast to video. So if you want to look at this weirdo face, you will after this episode drops. I'm going to try to do some video podcasting. And thank you for listening to this episode. Please like and subscribe if you're listening, wherever you're listening. And any final words, Corey?
Final words, man. I would end with that. I truly believe as men of God, we're going to be judged on how we steward God's blessing and how we treat our wife, how we treat our family, our kids is a big part of that, and also our country. We're taught to respect authority, and so regardless of where you are on the political aisle, is putting God first and knowing when to shut up and knowing when to carry the cross.
That was the best thing I've heard. This is one of my favorite episodes that I've ever done. Corey, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. This was one of my favorite moments.
I told you go longer. We went longer, bud.